Okay, so we should be live, and I gotta wait for it to come up on my end anyway because I can hear myself talk, so I need to see it live and then mute it.
Okay, and I'm waiting for it to show up under your videos or home.
Yeah, if you and then
Home,
I
it
might
says live. Oh, I got it. It shows live.
right
So let me
on.
just take that.
Perfect.
All right, mute that.
Close that window. So all set. Let me know when you're good on your end, and
I'll be ready in 10 seconds.
I'll become an official host. I'll transform immediately. Here we go. Let's get that out of here.
I'm ready.
Ready? Okay, here we go.
Why not?
Let's do it. This should be good. I'm excited. Okay, here we go. Get this out of the way, and I'll hit the recording on my computer, and we're all set. Hello, and welcome to the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I'm your host, Matt Belair. As you know, we are facing extreme censorship alongside many other truth seekers out there. If you want to support this show, go over to mattbelair.com, sign up for the email list, join the Academy for exclusive and censorship-free content, become a patron, and most importantly, consider doing 3 kind acts today wherever you are in the world. Now, let's get into tonight's show. Today's guest is a successful businessman who walked away from his very successful company to pursue spreading the truth about our world. He is the host of the Flat Earth podcast and creator of the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. He has the ability to take anyone from ridiculing the idea of a flat earth to the mind-blowing understanding that we don't live on a spinning, wobbling, rocketing water ball in an infinite vacuum. He also shows you why this topic is the most important topic of these troubled times. Welcome to the show, David Weiss.
Matt, thanks for having me. This is going to be a fun conversation. And, can I take anybody? I've noticed that there are some people that can't be taken anywhere. They have their masks on and they're lining up for their vaccine, and you can't show them anything. But any thinking person, I can take away from the ball because, as you said in that intro, we don't live on a spinning, wobbling pear rocket water ball in an infinite vacuum. I mean, if you just take the time and think about that, there's problems.
Well, yeah, man, I'm excited to get into this. I have been flat Earth before, and I found it very exciting. And, what I've spoken a lot recently was something I learned called the formula for truth. And the idea is that you could have flat Earth or round Earth, or you could be, Jesus Christ or an atheist, or you could be, COVID-19 is the worst thing, or it's nothing. Just polar opposites. And what most people do is they shut out, if you have a 0 and 90 degrees and you got 45 degrees is about in the middle, somewhere where the truth is. What we do is we don't listen. But maybe if we open up to that, other person's perspective at like 98% or at 96%, you're going to find something that you didn't know. And it also says that information evolves. That's why in law, they call it a discovery of truth. Because when I went to law and security and did police foundations, what you know is that when you go and interview a person about the robbery or whatever happened, their memory is already janky. They can't remember anything. And so like the information is incredibly limited. And the first time I ever applied this was to somebody who said, yeah, man, the earth's flat. And I was like, wait, what? And I was like, okay. And I said, lay it on me. And it was a 2.5-hour experience going through YouTube videos. And I was asking all these questions and I was like, oh my God, like this is so interesting. And at the end of that experience, I had some questions. I was like, oh, wow, that was pretty compelling. But the even more important thing for me was I was thinking about ways in a whole new, like I was thinking in whole new ways. Like it didn't matter whether the earth was flat or the earth was round. What mattered, I had upgrades in thinking. And what if it is? And what I do know for sure is if you research medicine, which I did because of COVID-19, you go all the way back, then you say, oh, wow, look at what Rockefeller did to medicine. It's not all bad doctors or, bad people. It's good people in a bad system that got bought and paid and manipulated. I also had Zuni elder on, Clifford Mahudi, and what he said was that people don't listen. He goes, once you listen to somebody fully, then you can give your opinion. Then you can actually say something, but people don't listen to the other side. And he had his entire, I asked him after the show, I said, Clifford, how are we going to save the Zuni history? If all the kids aren't learning what you learned and you're about the last generation, how are you going to save that? And he goes, I don't think we can. And so now that history of entire Native American culture is going to be gone as a 20,000 years, as far as I know anyway. So that's my rant to kind of like tee it up to get the listeners to just suspend disbelief and seek understanding rather than shutting off all that information and then, holding two thoughts. Socrates has a quote like that, holding two thoughts and not believing it or whatever. So I'm teeing you up so you can go deep, man, because I'm going to go all the way into it. I know a little bit here and there. I've seen some stuff that make me question. So I'm excited about this.
Matt, you've seen it, so you feel the excitement because there's excitement and truth. And you kind of made the joking comment like, oh, you're going to drag me into this flat earth. Well, all of us flat earthers were dragged in kicking and screaming. I would not look at a 1-minute video. I ban people from our social media for being so stupid as suggesting that I look at a thing called the flat earth. Dumbest shit ever. And then I was forced. I told the story a million times. I was forced to look. And I said, all right, I'm going to prove the ball. I'm tired of this. I'm going to prove the globe. And that's the end of it. And I didn't sleep for 2 weeks, and I did everything I could. And I came out the other side 5-6 years later. Here I am. I'm doing this full time. I left my own company because this is the most important foundation of truths. Because if you don't know where you're standing, if you think you're on an infinite speck in a godless infinite vacuum or distant God vacuum at best, you've given away your divinity. You've given away your true power, and you could be convinced of anything, like that there's magic little bugs flying through the air waiting to go, around your, into your mouth and kill you.
Yep. And again, with the magic little bugs one, and I peel back that curtain and you go all the way back to germ theory versus terrain theory. And if you go back to that argument, terrain theory makes a lot more sense than germ theory. It is a very, if you go toe to toe and you watch two intelligent people argue their points, terrain theory makes way more sense. But we're living in a germ theory paradigm where you have pharmaceuticals and vaccines that have $1 trillion industry, mostly funded and created by the Rockefellers, who had enough wealth at the time to do that. But it takes a lot of digging to figure that out. And now what's even worse is we're having this book burning like we've never seen before. So half the videos that I saved are gone. Half of these old talks you see from people in the 80s or 70s about this stuff, they get deleted too. So when they come up, you're like, wow, like that was amazing information, but then it's gone. And so what about the actual book burnings throughout history? History was recorded by the winners. So it's our history is a very tough thing to trust. And so I'd love for you to just start with your journey. You're a successful businessman. One day somebody pulls you into flat earth, you try to disprove it. Maybe you're like Eddie Bravo on Joe Rogan. And, Eddie Bravo is not a stupid guy either, man. That guy's like a jujitsu master. And I know actually a few flat earthers that don't come out. And I had Michael Tellinger on my podcast as well. And he was saying that, when he came out, he's like, I've never been under such crazy attack. And his books are like, thousands of pages. That guy's a researcher. So anyway, I'm going to shut up now. I got to let you talk. So tell us about your journey into this and why you wanted to commit to it.
Well, my journey started is, we were a buddy of mine. I worked for corporate America, and in the lunchroom, we were talking about the Federal Reserve every day and different things. And more and more people gathered around every day. And then, he goes, hey, we can do a podcast out of New York City. I know somebody, and I barely knew what a podcast was. I'm like, all right, yeah, let's do that. And I did a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, where we looked into conspiracies, and started going into, deep into conspiracy. The episode 1, the title was 9/11 is Dave's baby, right? Because I actually blew up the entire studio, no pun intended, with that story. But long story short, 2 years into it, started getting emails, check out the flat earth, check out the flat earth, banned everybody, wouldn't look. Then I was forced to look, as I said earlier. And I came out the other side going, oh my God, the earth is flat. Didn't want to talk about it for a couple months. Didn't want to bring it up on the show because flat earth will discredit everything else I've ever done. It's the dumbest, it's a psyop, right? That's what everyone says. And it's the opposite of the psyop. The psyop is that it's a psyop within a psyop. Right.
We're 5 minutes in, you're inceptioning me.
Yeah. And it's so then, basically that podcast blew up. It ran its course, went for 3 years. And I took some time off, and then I started the Flat Earth podcast because there was so much to talk about. And then things went on, and I actually, I'd be explaining Flat Earth to people in person, and I was like, I wish I had something on my phone. So I developed an app which called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, and I made it just for myself. I wasn't even going to publish it. I just wanted something where I could show people how the Flat Earth works, and it ended up being pretty cool. And I've been working on it for 3 years now, almost 3 years. And it's a great tool to show people the basics. So maybe I can share the screen right now, show you guys, give you like a 2-minute tutorial of how things like seasons and stars and the sun and the moon work in our skies. That sound good?
Yeah, sounds good to me. I've just made you the host, so you should be able to share.
All right. Sharing. So you guys can see the app.
Yep.
All right. So we live in the Antarctic basin, right? The shoreline of the world ocean is Antarctica, and it surrounds our oceans. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth, all right? It's not something that they really teach you in school. So think about that. The highest land with a pond, right? In the lower areas. So that's the world. Beyond Antarctica is an ice plain that goes on for hundreds of miles. And then there's a mountain range that's supposedly higher than Mount Everest. It probably goes all the way around. But again, those are off limits. We can get into that in a little bit if you want. So on the flat Earth, the sun is the hour hand, and it marks the hours and the days. And it goes around once every 24 hours. So wherever the sun is, it's 12 noon right at that spot. So the sun is rising in Africa right now. It's coming along. There's coming up on Madagascar. It's noon in Madagascar. So the sun goes around once every 24 hours. I'll speed it up. And the sun laps the moon once every 28 days. It's going a little bit faster than the moon. So you see it's catching up to the moon. The moon's phases change. It goes into the new moon phase. Spends a couple days there. And then there's your waxing crescent. And the moon is, trailing behind. So the sun laps the moon marks the months, the sun marks the days. And that makes sense to you right now?
Kind of. I'm not so good into astrology, so I think a lot of the astrologers are going to pick up a lot more. My first initial question is, what about the stars? That's what people are going to say.
All right. So I'm going to get to the stars. So just think of the sky as a perfect clock. It is a perfect clock. And the sun marks the hours, the moon marks the months, and that's it. So then I'll turn on the stars. Here's the zodiac, and the stars rotate in the same manner. They're on a separate wheel, and the stars are going slightly faster than the sun. So just a little bit, where it takes 365 rotations for the stars to lap the sun once. So with that being said, in 30 days from now, right now, the sun is here. In 30 days, it'll be in here, and 30 days later it'll be in here, because these are catching up. So that's how that when they say the sun is in whatever sign it is, that's how the signs work. And the stars, these are the stars that are in fixed positions in the skies. If you go out tonight and look at the stars, they're going to be in the exact same position they were last year on this night, 10 years ago, 10 years from now. They're in the exact same position every year on the same night. So that's another flat and stationary proof. We'll get into that in a minute. So let me turn that off. In the app, people, I can turn on the world time. So wherever it shows you what time it is. So right now it's almost noon in Eastern Australia. It's 3 a.m. in Johannesburg, South Africa. It's 8 p.m. in the East Coast right here 8 p.m. In the East Coast where I am. So that shows you world times. It has the frequently asked questions. So people say, you know, what about, you know, where's the edge? Whoops. I click where's the edge and up come a list of videos about where's the edge. I can say why the lie. My where's the edge got stuck. Of course that happens. So you have your frequently asked questions. So all the questions you ask will be in there. So why the lie? Are pilots and scientists all in on it? They're all there. Tons of answers for you. We have all sorts of other resources, including, you know, down at the bottom here, mud floods, if you haven't looked into that. We have all sorts of stuff, debunking videos where people say, well, I saw this Professor Dave or this Simon Dan or whatever. Well, all of those videos are completely taken apart here in detail. We have some stuff on our favorite beer up here.
I'll keep going.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say the Simon Dan, that's what I would want to make like a debate happen. You know what I mean? Like two, you know, I want to see that happen of both sides. Cause I have an engineer friend that I told him you were coming on and he's like, I have some questions cause I'm an engineer. I was like, great, man. I was like, as an engineer, you can, you know, that's how we're going to get closer to the truth. You know, I was like, this would be good. That's what we need. That's what we need to see.
We have engineers that have made videos. What's the guy's name? Brian Mullen, he's an engineer, did a series of videos, amazing, and they're all in the app. You can find them. I have different languages, playlists in different languages for people. And here's the beautiful thing on the app. This is what I tell people: get the Flat Earth app and take the Flat Earth app challenge. Every day, there's a new video that shows up right here. So there's a new video. You click that image, and up comes the video. Short videos during the week, you know, a couple minutes. Longer ones on the weekends. I say watch a video every day for 2 weeks and you will know that you don't live on a spinning ball. And the messages I get is, hey, I saw you on Matthew's show and I bought your stupid app for $2.99 and I took the challenge, but I didn't want to wait. And I hit the archive button, which is that red button next to it. And up come all of the videos from all of the previous months. And I haven't slept in 2 days. And oh my God, you ruined my life. The earth is flat and my girlfriend thinks I'm crazy and whatever. So there's a ton of other stuff on the app, but it's the greatest teaching tool. Oh, let me show you seasons. Right now, the sun is out here it's almost over this outer yellow line, which is known as the Tropic of Capricorn. So the sun migrates in between these two yellow lines. It takes 6 months later. I can jump it forward 6 months, and that is June. And in June, the sun's over the Tropic of Cancer, and it's closer to the inner northern lands. So that's why it's warmer. And because it's closer, we have a small local sun. It's higher in the sky, and we have more heat. And when it's back out here in December, where we are now, it's the outer southern lands summer. And the sun for us is low in the sky because it's far away. Make sense?
Yeah. So, okay. So what is the sun? I got so many questions. So what is the sun? Do you know?
You got to start with the tough ones, huh?
I don't know. Well, yeah, you know, I was in Egypt with the Resonance Science Foundation. And I guess they were saying at the time that gravity isn't simple. They can't explain gravity. Like your best scientists can't explain how gravity works. And I might not be saying this. Maybe somebody can. And if they can, post it in the comments. But I'm pretty sure that's what they're discussing, how it's like not a very simple explanation. And so we have these universal laws that are very interesting, are very challenging to explain, that you kind of like just take for granted. So do you is that a tough one? I don't know. Do you know?
Well, because
I have a lot of questions.
Gravity. You want to start with gravity for a second, or?
Sure. Yeah. Let's go into that.
Yeah. So gravity is just a theory, and science, admits it's a theory, that there's no proof that mass attracts mass. As a matter of fact, they had to make up a thing called dark matter, because that fills up, like, I think it's 96% of the universe is dark matter, because their equations don't work without dark matter, and they still don't work even with the dark matter. It's complete and utter nonsense. The Earth has
And this
Good.
is what I was observing, with these physicists and engineering. They're talking about gravity and how there wasn't like a solid, uniform conclusion that they knew what gravity was and how it worked, or how it worked essentially.
Right. So, they have a thing called the three body problem. And that's because that's where, they can make a computer model and have a sun with a X amount of gravity and a planet with X amount of gravity, and it'll work perfectly. But then when you add a third body in there with gravity, the whole model falls apart. Well, our solar system has 100 different bodies in it with all the moons and everything. And it makes absolutely no sense. With all of these things spiraling around. I'm trying to find out. Yeah. So here's this is what our solar system is supposedly doing. We're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. We're orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles per hour. We're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles per hour, right? All the other planets are staying on that same plane around the sun and moving with, on that same plane, which is they'd be going around like a beehive, right? If it was a random universe.
And
But
one of
they're
the
all
things that, I usually don't cut people off so much. I apologize.
no
One of the
problem. I can talk forever.
Yeah, one of the ones I was telling my buddy about, because I use that as an example. Like, flat Earth for so many people is like a don't pass go. For me, I am just so curious. I want to hear everybody's opinion and go into it. And when there's a hard resistance to any of them, right, and there's such ridicule around it, that's probably even more curious
Yeah.
about why that's happening. And so I just thought about the gas. So we'll probably get into NASA and some of the stuff. I know for sure NASA being super sketchy, the origins being linked to Rockefeller and also Hollywood,
Right.
and how all that whole thing worked, and the moon landing and some weird stuff there. But I just thought about the Earth, right, and the gasoline from the combustion chamber. Then what happens when you get out? If we're spinning through that, how does it like get to the moon? Maybe a physicist just come on and give me a simple answer. But I think about the gas to get all the way to the moon, as it has to chase it. Like, if you were chasing somebody else on a boat and you jumped off, you would have to match the speed of the boat and then get to the next boat ahead. So I was like, I don't understand that.
How does Halley's Comet find
much.
us 76 years later when we're billions of miles in a different place? Okay. How does it go all the way out and then keep up with where we're going? Because we're moving at 500,000 miles an hour. We're going sideways at over 1,000,000 miles per hour. There's 4 different motions happening at once. So check this out. You got the sun and you got the distant Earth, 93 million miles away. And the Earth is falling around the sun because the sun is holding on to the Earth with its magical gravity. And it's falling around the Earth, right? Because it's held on and it's falling around in a perfect pattern, like a timepiece in a clock, which is insane, right? And then the moon is going the opposite direction around the Earth. Okay, it's caught in the Earth's gravity. What happens when the moon is right in between the sun and the Earth? How come the sun's gravity doesn't rip it away, or at least tug it a little bit, okay, and screw up its orbit, right? If you think about it, it makes absolutely no sense. That this is the 3-body problem. And now add in another 7 planets and all of their moons. And it's absolute insanity to even think that makes any sense whatsoever.
Okay, so yeah, I'm with you so far. So my main questions that I'm curious about, because the astrological stuff I don't know as well, but there are some things that I know a little bit more. Like, I've heard that there's a lot of different Bible verses that reference the flat Earth, and I'm wondering if you have like a collection of those, because I find that very interesting. And where are you finding the information that is sharing that this is indeed a flat plane? Because the first time that I went down this rabbit hole, the guy brought up like a 6-hour video of this tiny yogi with painted up. The guy was old as crap. He was like, 90 years old and tiny. And he has this little stick, and it's like a 9-hour video. And he's explaining how the Earth is flat from the Vedas. And I was like, holy smokes, that's really fascinating, because that's some ancient stuff. So when history can be written by the winners, or it can be modified, or there can be book burnings, that's where I'm like, how do we get to that knowledge? Where does it come from? And also, you shared this on your in your app. What the hell is the point of this? And I have an idea, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on those two things.
Let's let's get to why the lie just a little later. Let's just go through some of the things. Like you ask for a proof. One of my favorite proofs is we can see too far. They say boats go over the horizon, but they don't. They just get too small for our eye to see. So as we zoom out, this giant boat will just disappear because its angular size is too small to see. And people will assume it went over the horizon, but it's not. It's gone. It's invisible right there. But if I zoom back in, you'd see it. Let's watch this one. As we go out, it disappears, and it looks like it's disappearing from the bottom up, but it's not. It's all the way your eyes work, the way perspective works. You see that?
Yeah, and I've also seen a video of they talk about the curvature of the Earth, and there's a airplane pilot, and he goes in to the cockpit, and he goes, "Hey boys, I'm a fellow pilot. Earth is flat, right?" And they both like the one pilot's like, "Yeah, flat as a pancake." He's like, "You're not pulling my leg." He's like, "Nope, flat as a pancake." Because you look at the images, the high altitude images, and you always see a flat plane. And the only curvature you see is a computer generated image. And I guess the only image of satellites are computer generated images. And the other thing that I saw fascinating, I need an answer to, is the apparent temperature at certain altitudes are meant to be whatever they are, super hot. And you match that temperature with what a satellite would look like or Elon Musk's car. And they say, well, this is what would happen to leather at that heat, and where they're showing what the heat was from. And again, this is a video I think I got deleted, so I'm not giving really great details. So you, like always, do your own damn research and tell me what you think. But you know what I'm talking about?
I do. There's you unwrapping a lot of things there. The whole, there's so many people like, that's so cool. Elon Musk put his Tesla in space. I'm like, did you watch it? They're like, no, I just heard about it. Because if you watch it, and with any bit of discernment, even like a 3-year-old's discernment, it's a complete and total joke. It's absolutely ridiculous. I actually had a picture of it, which I don't have handy right now, but it's it shows you the globe Earth. And at the time they took that picture, they weren't even up as high as the space shuttle, the space station, the fake space station. And the curvature is all wrong. There's no land. There's glitching. It's all computer generated. Talking about, airplane pilots at 550 miles an hour, you'd have to nose down a mile every 2 minutes. Otherwise, you're going to fly off into space. Okay. No pilot ever does that. Airplanes fly straight across the Earth plane. Make sense?
Yep, that makes sense.
Where else were you? You brought up a lot of topics, and I can't keep up.
The temperatures as they rise, like apparently 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet, it gets really, really hot. But you're seeing satellites float around at that.
In the thermosphere, they say it's like a couple thousand degrees. What metal survives in that? Satellites, people say, what about world communications? Well, world communications, 99% of it's done with undersea cables. Here's a map of the cables that they admit they have. There's probably others. And that's how, transatlantic communications happen. NASA also has the largest, they're the largest consumer of helium. And I believe they own many helium companies because they put up balloons that carry, satellites up to 8,000 pounds that stay up there for a year or more. And why don't we hear about this? What are those doing? Are those doing communications? I don't believe that actually much of our, satellite coverage, our GPS coverage is actually balloons because there is no satellite GPS. And when you're far offshore, even like between California and Hawaii, the planes go into approximated mode. It doesn't show them exactly where they are. They just calculate where they are based on their flight plan.
Right. So, yeah, and I guess the flight patterns are really strange. Like if you look at the map and if you look at the flight patterns, that's one of the videos I saw where, and I actually looked it up. I tried to find the flight, and I was like, why would they fly like if it were like that? That makes no sense. But isn't it the UN has a flat Earth map or something on their?
Yeah, the UN map is a flat Earth map. But here, check out this flight path. So there's Australia right over here, and Santiago, Chile. So the normal flight goes all the way up into the northern hemisphere, cuts across, and then goes down. Why didn't they just go underneath the ball? Why didn't they just go, right underneath the bottom, or stay down in the lower part and just go across the shore? I'm sorry, hard to do this. I'm not a good weatherman yet. Why didn't they just fly there? Why did they go all the way up, over, and then down? It makes no sense. And the reason is, it's simple. The earth is flat, and this is the real flight. That's the same path that I showed you that went all the way up to the north. It's a straight line. So that's how they fly when they go and they stop for gas in the United States, maybe 2 stops, and then they continue. It's a straight line, but on a globe, it's this big arc. So, that all international flights, and maybe even all flights, are controlled by NASA. NASA is responsible for all of the flight plans.
Interesting. Well, so I'd like you to go into a little bit about NASA, because what I've looked up, NASA's connection to Hollywood, they were actually called something else. So they seem a little bit sketchy and untrustworthy. I know for sure Hollywood should not be trusted. And I know how powerful the television is. The television is incredibly powerful. It's been used, can you imagine before they had TV, and they look at this TV and they're believing whatever it's saying. And now you can program that television. That's why they call it program and television, all these different things. And so you've got NASA's connection to Hollywood. And I know specifically just from working with the International Tribunal of Natural Justice with studying psychological operations, I can hear the language patterns, and I know what they're doing as far as, creating people that are afraid. We've got that new movie coming out, butter, I don't know what it's, Songbird, where they're basically trying to project this dystopian society that they want. It's not by accident, it's on purpose. But people, they believe the reality that they're given. And I've always questioned everything, and the more I've uncovered everything, I'm like, oh damn, like that's a lie, oh damn, that's a lie. And if you go down any of these rabbit holes, whether it's food, and you go all the way to the bottom of food, you start questioning things like what is actually going on here, health, government, anything along those lines, you're going to realize that it was hijacked by somebody in power at some time to create and architect some sort of reality that we get to stay in as essential sheep. And so yeah, talk about NASA for a second. I'm going to start firing more questions at you.
You quoted the Truman Show, that we accept the reality that we are shown.
Yeah.
And that's the true man show, where they live in a dome. The question, what was the question? NASA and their
give us a little bit about why NASA's baloney.
Well, first, their logo is a snake tongue, so that's got to tell you something. That doesn't just happen by accident. Do you remember when last year they had a hole in the space shuttle, or maybe a year or two ago? A micrometeorite made a hole, and they fixed it with gum and duct tape, I think. Okay. That's crazy. And Chris Hadfield tweeted, "Here's the hole." Okay. I mean, I can't see which one's which, but basically that's the hole that Chris Hadfield tweeted that they fix. And this is one of them is an album cover from a band from years before. It's the same picture. Okay. That should be enough to tell you NASA's full of crap. Okay. Make sense? I mean,
it makes sense. I was remembering there's some, there's one of the other ones that makes me curious is if you look at the interviews with NASA astronauts now, they say, why don't you go back to the moon? And they say they don't have the technology. There's multiple interviews of them saying they don't have the technology to get to the moon. How in the hell do you have the technology in, what is it, the 60s, and go back a whole bunch of times and now you can't?
The global argument is, they did it with these, back with tape reels or whatever, and to recreate it, it's more difficult. And we already did that. So now we're going to Mars. You can make up excuses all day. NASA does all of their training in a pool, which makes no sense because in a pool, everything's trying to get in, and in space, everything's trying to get out of your suit. So here they are in a pool. The pool has green screens for some reason, and it kind of looks like space. We catch them with bubbles in space all the time. You used to be able to Google bubbles in space and up would come all of our videos, but YouTube's algorithms have hidden all of that information. That's why you got to get the app, because when you look at a video on the app, all of the following videos are videos from the app, not from Google's algorithms. So if you're looking at one topic, it'll keep feeding you more and more information.
And I've watched this in real time with all the coronavirus information. I've watched half the videos I saved get deleted. Some of them were old videos, and then the algorithms change. So when you try to look something up, all it'll show is flat Earth debunked moron or coronavirus idiot, and it's always a shaming. It's always a vicious attack. It's never any. It's always ridicule, right? And I can't remember. I saw something. Some sort of quote, but basically said, the main argument is always ridicule. It's the most terrifying thing when you just ridicule someone. They're too afraid to look into it. And even for myself, like the flat earth stuff, I looked at it and it was so vehement. It was so vicious. I was resistant, and I'm pretty open to it. Like, I just want to know I'm in Egypt talking about aliens and civilizations, all this different stuff. But the flat earth was especially frightening because of the such attack that you get. And so when you reached out, it's like, damn it, I got to do it. And then now for history, you can have people go on there. And even now with this coronavirus stuff, that's what they'll say. Oh, it's a flat earth science or whatever. And I'm like, well, I would like to see, someone else's argument versus your argument, because I don't claim to be smarter than anyone. And if you ask somebody to prove the ball earth, like my dad or anyone else, I'll just say, how do you know? Like, just how do you know? And they say, because it is. And I was like,
because it is, because I was told nobody likes having their ball taken away from them. We've been programmed before we can talk. We had Mobile, the planets above us as a baby. Sesame Street had astronauts on there, and the Yip Yaps talking about the moon and the Earth, and it's everywhere. It's programmed. Then you go to school, when you're in kindergarten, your teacher's a god, and what do they have at the front of the room? A globe, okay? And they show you where you live, and they show you how gravity works by swinging a bucket of water around. It's complete and total nonsense. I mean, this is what you need to believe in the globe. And this is all you need to understand that the earth is flat and stationary. Because if the water was convex, it had curvature to it, you wouldn't see that line. It would just it would stop at the curve. You can do that. Get a piece of flexible, shiny material, put a light down on the edge and watch it go across, and then just bend it a little bit and watch. That light doesn't do that. Okay.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got so many questions. Okay.
Wait, one more.
Okay.
Jupiter is a gaseous planet, we're told. And when we watch videos from NASA, they're spinning in different directions, all those lines, and you got the storm here. Okay, taken 2 years apart. Okay, and they were able to get this amazing polar. This is from NASA, official photo from NASA. They got these amazing auroras. Does that by the way, that's impossible to Photoshop. You can't do that in Photoshop. Okay, it's impossible. All right. But if you lay these two on top of each other, that's sarcasm. There's every single little bump and everything is exactly the same. They're exactly the same. Okay. Official photo from NASA. 2 years later, official photo from NASA. Okay. That tells you NASA's lying. It's it. And once you unwind just one of these fakeries, unwind it, we didn't go to the moon. Earth is flat.
Right. Yeah. Okay. There's so many things. Okay. One of them is, what's this girl's name? Something, Rosa Corey. You know her?
The Werner Von Braun's secretary. Is that who it is? No,
It
Rosa
could be.
Corey. She's behind the green mask, right?
She was talking about exposing Agenda 21, Agenda 21, and I watched one of these old documents that you could actually find and read, and it was like the future of weaponization by NASA. And it was such a messed up document. I think it was from the 80s that I read, and I was like, holy shit, this is very interesting. So I want you to kind of go back and explain. I think the NASA connection for their inception as a company, and then they're linked to Hollywood. Do you know anything about that, or can you summarize it briefly?
I can summarize it. Werner von Braun was supposedly brought over from NASA. Not from NASA, from Russia, a Russian rocket scientist brought over to run NASA. Okay. If you ask me, I think he's just an actor with a story, that he came from Russia, because, the whole Cold War, it's all nonsense. There was no Cold War. It's all just divide and separate the masses, split everyone up by countries, by religions, by sports teams, by race, by political team, divide, so we can't get our collective consciousness together and create this world, and that's how they control us, because the psyop is that we are powerless and we can't do anything, that they have total control over us. That's the psyop. Um, so NASA, was supposedly started by him. NASA gets, $65 million a day right now, supposedly. Well, at least that's what they're taking from us. But NASA has never put anyone in space. Now, nobody is in those rockets when they take off. Okay, it's all a magic trick. It's all deception on many levels. So did I answer your question, or was it deeper?
No, that's good. That works for me. I remember seeing somebody's video. It's probably in your collection there. And
Probably.
it showed the correlation between NASA and Hollywood, and just how NASA actually rebranded itself. And then, they
Right.
basically used Hollywood movies to influence. If you look back, it's all about space travel and aliens and ETs and all this kind of stuff. And
Look,
so it is interesting that they focus on that. And I'm super curious about space and aliens and stuff like that. So it's very intriguing.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with accepting flat Earth. You have to give up Star Wars, Star Trek, all of the space movies. You have to let them all go. Right?
Get off my show right now. I won't.
Yeah.
I won't do it.
I know. I love them. I love them. But here's the thing. I believe that extraterrestrials are amongst us. That maybe the elite have the ability to go. Now, extraterrestrials are on the lands beyond Antarctica. We live in the Antarctic basin, right? So maybe they're going beyond Antarctica. Where is it? Yeah. So here it is, and maybe they have the ability to go beyond, and there's other lands out there, other continents. Maybe there's other worlds across the flat plane that have their own suns that melted out their own puddles in this massive ice sheet that we live on. I don't know, because nobody is allowed to independently explore beyond the shoreline of Antarctica.
Admiral Byrd, right?
Yeah, Admiral Byrd. He went and said that there was land, bigger than the United States, never touched by a human, beyond the pole, right? That's all he said. So again, we weren't there. Admiral Byrd, was a military guy. He's probably a Freemason. Was he supposed to tell us that? Did that slip out? Were they just discovering the makeup of the world, in 1957 when they went down there? Because right after he made that speech, they started the Antarctic Treaty, and they started NASA. Okay. The Antarctic Treaty put a fence around us that said, we have to protect the ice and the penguins. We can't drop a cigarette butt down here or we'll ruin this pristine ice. But why we're protecting that, go deforest the Amazon and grow palm trees, palm oil trees. That's fine. But we have to protect the ice. So if all the countries, before being, what's the word for being eco-friendly, before that whole movement started, all the countries in the world signed on to this treaty. No one can even question the treaty until 2041. All right.
Yeah. That's interesting. And and for me, it's like scoping out of possibility. It's like, what if, like, I think I'm getting like a flashback of the first time I got flat Earth, that I was like, what if we're in this section, right? And then you could go beyond it and you could just hop, like we're on the continent of North America and Canada, right? Then you can hop into Africa, just like they found, in boats back in the day. What if you could actually traverse over this thing to a whole nother space? And then I think of the idea of like that movie, The Hunger Games, and they divide the cities. Well, you might not know if that other better city existed. You know how they do all those dystopian movies? You wouldn't even know it exists. Like maybe we're in the crappy world, right? In this controlled one, but over here there's like a better one and a free one that we don't have access to.
There's a lot of stories about that. Maybe NASA isn't lying when they say they want to go to outer space and go to Mars, because maybe Mars is in the outer space. We live in here. Okay. This is Antarctica, this ring. But maybe out here is where Mars is the sun and Venus is the moon. Okay. And if you model that with a dome, when you're in the dome, Mars and Venus, if they were suns and moons out there, look like a star inside of our dome. Very interesting stuff. And then there's another ring out here, and some speculate. There's a guy named Martin Kenny. It's called the cosmic egg, and he says that he thinks that Jupiter and Saturn are the sun and the moon out there. So again, those are in the outer spaces across the Earth plane. All of the largest telescopes on Earth are in the southern lands, and they're not pointing up, they're pointing south. And south is every direction away from the middle. Okay. So, you know, the North Pole is right in the middle here, and south is that way. South is also, like, how do I do this? That way. And south is that way. And south is also that way. Any way away from the middle is south. North is in the middle, and east and west circle around the middle. Let me just show you real quick, because some people have a hard time getting that. So
yeah, a lot of this stuff is going over my head, so I'm hoping like I can look at it after. I was like, okay, because again, the astrology stuff and directional stuff will
here's the thing, it's way easier than you think. Then it really just makes so much sense, and it's not as complicated as it sounds. So here's the north. North is in the center. Can you see?
Yep.
What is going on? You can see the app, right?
Yep.
All right. So north is in the center, and east and west are circles around the center. So if I wanted to go 270 degrees, I have to go, I have to stay equidistant from the North Pole, and 270 degrees, which is west, or 90 degrees, which is east, take me in a circle, just like that gold circle. And I can go all the way around the Earth and come right back to where I started from. And I think because of my programming that I went around a ball, but in fact, I just went around the block. Okay. I went around the flat Earth plane. I can also go from America, head north, 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 north. And then as I pass the North Pole, I'm now going south, south, south. And now I'm in Asia. Okay. And I went in a straight line, but nobody has ever gone from South America, gone south, and then popped up over in Australia, or gone from Johannesburg, gone south, and then popped up over in New Zealand. No one's ever done that, right? If it was a ball, everyone would have done it. Billions of people with a B, as Carl Sagan would say, have circumnavigated east and west. They've taken the northern shortcut going over the north, but no one's gone south and come up the other side ever. Okay.
Oh,
that's got to tell you something. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay. So, I want to get into the Bible verses, and then I wanted to get into, if you have them, I loaded up some because I remember going down these with a few people. And also if you were to say your top 3 uneffable proofs that anybody can understand and they have to go dispute it, be like, okay, you think the earth is round? Go prove these things. These are my 3 strongest arguments.
So the 3 strongest arguments are, water lays flat. The earth is 70% water, and we can see too far. There's a million observations we've done with lasers, with microwaves, with mirror flashes that we see entirely too far. We see things that should be miles below curvature. And now with infrared cameras and whatnot, we can see even farther. And it's absolute ridiculousness to say that the earth is curved. And some people say, well, maybe it's a bigger ball. Well, even if it was 1,000 times bigger, there would still be curvature, and we can see too far. So that's number 1. Number 2 is you can't have the second law of thermodynamics says you can't have high pressure next to a vacuum, or even high pressure next to low pressure without a physical barrier. So we live in a high pressure system, and space is a vacuum. And why doesn't space just suck all the air and equalize? And the only answer that the ballers can give is gravity. Well, gravity can be easily disproved with a straw. Take a straw, put it in your mouth, point it downward, stick it in water or just in air. And with the weak vacuum of your mouth and lungs, you can suck air and liquid up and away from Earth effortlessly. Well, if you can do that with your lungs, how come space can't do it? And the answer is because Space is not a vacuum. Space is a lie, and there is something containing us here. And is that good?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. And so I pulled up some Bible verses. I'm not the Bible guy. Okay. My co-host Matt Long, his Instagram and YouTube is Woketown, one word, Woketown, and he does the greatest videos. But on the Flat Earth app, there's a button. One of the buttons on the web page is biblical flat Earth proofs. Huge list of amazing videos there. You could spend a week watching them, and you'll be blown away. But on the King James Bible, 1 Chronicles 16:30, the world also shall be stable, that it be not moved. That's pretty interesting. On a spinning, wobbling ball in a Helios nonsensical system, that wouldn't make any sense. Palm 93.1, the world also is stabilized, that it cannot be moved. Palm 96.10, the world also shall be established, that it shall not be moved. Palms 10:104.5, who laid the foundations of the earth, that it shall not be removed forever. And Isaiah 40:22, it's he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth. Many ballers use that one, but I sit upon the circle of my table. I have a circular table, and I sit on it sometimes.
Awesome. Yeah, there's quite a few, and I thought that was a very interesting correlation to have them in the Bible, because it references it a lot. And the other one, it references as well as the firmament, basically like being in a dome. And I thought, oh man, if we are in a dome, that's super trippy. And all these old alchemical images, very famous of this guy kind of peering outside of the dome. And the thing that I know for sure is that we are not told the true history. I've done some work with, several Native American elders, and within a few generations, we have almost abolished all of their history through genocide and other horrific things. And we didn't do that to help them. Conquerors did that to have more control. So what if you had like what Rockefeller's been able to do to the medical industry, to the education industry? They're telling us what they want to know. So I'm skeptical of everything. And I only really kind of know the stuff I've experienced directly and understand. And beyond that, I've kind of got to trust somebody. The thing is, I really don't trust our establishments one bit, because if I did, we wouldn't have 9.1 million people starving each year. We wouldn't have a huge human trafficking problem. And I wouldn't look on the TV having these buttholes lie to me all the time and are literally just there to be actors to do this horrendous stuff.
Which one of these videos is real? So we have rocket ships landing on rafts. Is it the one on the right that's landing right now, or the one on the left that's landing in those super rough seas over there?
Are you trying to trick question me and say they're both not real?
Of course not. They're both garbage. The one on the left, though, this is SpaceX.
Yeah,
this is an actual SpaceX landing. Now, there's a closer up video of this, but there's 5 to 10 foot swells out there. You couldn't stand on that raft, okay, without holding on to something. And this thing is landing in 20 to 30 knot winds, like on this raft. That thing weighs like 40 tons empty, and it's coming down a little bit of fire, and these little milk crate fins is stabilizing it and making it land there. This is I believe from the 1950s, a movie, basically predictively programming us that this is going to happen in the future. And then here they are faking it right here. It's nonsense.
Yeah. And one of the things with NASA that clued in for me that was interesting, the NASA budget is extraordinary. So if there were a group of people that wanted an extraordinary amount of income, be like, okay, we're going to go to space. You're going to give us hundreds of millions of dollars.
$65 million a day, every day, without a break, no holidays.
Is that what it is? Where do you find that?
$65 million every single day.
And what else to say to people too? Like, I can tell you've done a ton of research just because the eagerness to share all that stuff and like, it comes from somewhere. I think your app would be able to have, be able to access these links to go verify for yourself. That's what people have to do. They have to go verify things for themselves. You got to disprove it for yourself. You got to actually do the work. People in general, same with the coronavirus stuff, they don't want to put in the time. So if you don't want to put in the time, just don't shame, mock, guilt, or ridicule. Give them the time of day. Because just like religion, right? I went to the Parliament of World Religions. Well, it's like, in one way, it's who's, imaginary friend, or, Santa Claus or a leprechaun or whatever. I know it's different. I don't mean to be meaning to be demeaning to people who are religious. It just means that we haven't met them physically in this realm. We don't know where they're booked. We can have trust and we can have faith in that. But it is a story. And like, even you look at, I don't know, with the one guy with the magic glasses, that one, Mormonism. It's got the magic glasses and you can read the book. So you can ridicule a lot of people. Like, I don't see that as any different than thinking that the earth is flat. And so you have to go down and then begin proving it or disproving yourself. And I have, like, again, there's a secret person I can't say who's a flat earther because they haven't come out yet, but they're highly intelligent. And they gave me this document that they put together after doing about probably 400 or 500 hours of research. And it's very compelling. And this is how I know, because I started to browse through it. And this person is
here's the thing. Here's the thing. We don't know everything. There's so much that we don't know, but we know that we don't know. People that believe in the globe don't even know the globe model, and they think the flat earth model is what the flat earth society is showing. I just put out a video where Obama and Jim Carrey mentioned flat earth a half a dozen times during their reign. They mentioned the flat earth society because they want to drive people there. If you want to look into flat earth, you Google flat earth, it takes you to the Flat Earth Society. You Google images of flat earth, and it's all images from the Flat Earth Society, a disk floating in a heliocentric universe. That's not what we believe. All of the information on the Flat Earth Society is nonsense. And if you end up going there in your research, you'll laugh at flat earth and you'll never look again, because it's called a gatekeeping. It's a government-controlled gatekeeping site. Here's a photo of the earth from NASA. This is an official photo from 2012. Right? First, it looks like a cartoon. You know why? Because it is a cartoon. But this is from NASA. This is a photo of Earth. Okay? Nonsense. But if you look at it, that's what we're seeing. So all of the rest of that land is on the other side of that ball. Let that sink in. All of the land that's outside of this little circle here, which is showing you what land we're seeing here, okay? All of this, all of that land, all of it is on the other side of this ball.
Right. Okay. That's good.
That makes no sense.
Yep.
Okay. So they can't even get their proportions right. When they have two, their top two photos of Earth are this. Okay. And here's the United States. It's half the size in this one. And people say, well, it's the angle and the aperture. Baloney. These balls are the same size. This is what they're showing. It's nonsense. You can explain the color away, that, whatever, the lens, the exposure. You can make excuses all you want, but these are cartoons. We don't live on a cartoon. And by the way, everybody knew the earth was flat all the way up until the 1920s. Okay, we're told that 500 years ago, Aristophanes with his sticks and shadows proved it. I could show you how sticks and shadows prove the flat earth. But I interviewed a woman named Ruth in January of this year in an old age home. She's 102 years old. And I was talking to her about the World's Fairs, which is a whole nother friggin' thing. The World's Fairs are not what we were told. I believe it's the last great reset. But Ruth was telling me detailed information about her 5th birthday party. I'm like, wow, she's 102. I don't remember my 20th birthday party, okay, let alone my 5th. And I asked her, I said, hey, where did you go to school, elementary school? She told me the school. She told me the teacher's name. I said, what did they teach you in science class about the earth? And I'd never mentioned flat earth to her. And she goes, they taught me the earth was flat. She goes, but then they changed it a couple of years later, okay? And then we found another woman who grew up in Croatia. She was like 90 something. And she said in the 1930s, she was taught that the earth was flat in school, and then they changed it. So they World War I, World War II, all of these wars were to destroy the past advanced civilization that lived here on Earth and rewrite history and enslave us into this, Rockefeller system, I call it. So, if you look at every civilization going back there, as far as we can see, they all had flat Earth cosmology. Only NASA brought in the ball. The story of Aristophanes, what I'm talking about, where you had the well and the sticks and the shadows, so it's a famous story, and most kids know it because it's ingrained into their head, and in the series Cosmos, where he had a guy 500 miles away, and on a certain day in Greece, the sun would shine all the way down a well, and that means that the sun is directly above, and then the guy 500 miles away had a stick, and the stick, when pointing up at the same time, would create a shadow. And he's like, oh, that's because the Earth is curved. And then he did some geometry and figured out how round the Earth was. And he discovered within 2% of what size the Earth was. That's the story. Famous mathematician. Nobody ever wrote anything about him until the 1980s, where he showed up in Rockefeller textbooks. Okay, because it's a fictional story. If I have two sticks on a flat table, okay, here are my two sticks, and I have a light above this one, there's no shadow, right? Because it's shining straight down, correct? Yeah. This stick with the light over here has a shadow, right? I can take the angles of that shadow and do a calculation and tell you how spherical my flat table is, okay? But that doesn't matter. We don't live in a math equation, right? That's all the globe proofs are. There's 4 categories of globe proofs: mathematical equations, lies, misrepresentations, and insults. That's it.
Mostly insults.
Mostly
Can you
insults,
go over those again?
Right.
And interesting you say about the math. Clifford Mahudi was talking about how the math that he learned in school was very different than they were teaching just 10 or 15 years later. And he was a civil and environmental engineer for 40 years for the government. And, basically what he's told me is just like the new breed. He's just like, it's just been getting worse and worse and worse. He's like, they don't even know how to do simple math. He's like, it's a total different system than we were taught. And like I said, too, if you think about history, like just what I know from Clifford being 80-year-old Zuni elder, he's got the Western world because he went through that type of schooling, and he's also got a Zuni history. But he watched from, he'd probably be early 1920s or 1920s ish, how all of that culture was destroyed super easily. So then, what is it like? It takes 1 or 2 generations to destroy a history or something like that. And if we look at what's going on now, as it got more and more ridiculous, and I was like, oh my God, it's just going to keep getting worse. I'm like, in one way, I kind of hope they say the coronavirus is 6 feet in the air, because you're going to see most people crawling. And then 1 or 2 generations later, we'll forget that we actually walked. And that's how afraid people are. They're just going to stay low, and they won't even remember that they can do it. It can actually happen that fast, because the institutions are very good at creating obedient people. Do not question authority. And I had my aunt over, and she's Newfie. My mom and my aunt are Newfies, and they said as kids, he's like, you would never talk out about anybody in a position of authority. Never speak back about a teacher, a lawyer, anything. You would actually get whooped by your parents. You never question anything, and that's a scary thing. We need to be questioning everything, especially when you look at the harm that's being done all around the world. Something is wrong. Like I remember being a kid and looking at it as like, something is wrong. Something is very, very wrong here. If there can be multimillionaires all over the world, but I'm looking at this starving kid each and every day on TV, starving to death. Rice is not very expensive. You know what I mean? It doesn't take that much money to sort out some rice for some people. So that's my rant there. Do you want to add in on something? Because I want to ask you a bunch more questions.
No, you can ask me more questions. We can talk about, why would they lie? Maybe you want to ask me how the sun sets on a flat Earth.
Sure. Yeah, I want to know the why. That's an important one. I want to know why they
Yeah.
lie. You touched on a little bit the idea of the ancient civilizations, if they have any role, any of those histories, Egypt. There's, apparently several thousand quote unquote sacred sites, which means we don't know how they build them, or they're not telling us because we don't know. Like, I was in Egypt and that construction and listened to the engineers. They're like, we have no idea how this was done. This is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, if you look at even some of the buildings that are in every city across the world, there's they were built in the 1800s, 1700s supposedly. They had horses and buggies back then, and they're building these castles with domes and towers. This is obviously a technology that we have no idea what it was. I believe they were free energy harvesting buildings that many of the excuse me, many of the old churches were not churches to start with. Maybe they were healing centers or something else. So, I have a church in my town. There's like, they wouldn't be able to build it today. So,
Oh yeah, and it's interesting because absolutely, that was one of the theories that they had in Egypt. And there's a place called Saqqara, and there's a documentary on it about on Netflix now. But they have this wall, and they called it the Healing Center, and it's just a wall that goes a few hundred meters. It might have been bigger at the time, and it's got these squares that go in. And they say, yeah, go put your head in the square. You're going to feel something. You don't need to meditate. You don't need to do anything. Everybody feels it. You stick your head into this square. This just is an open space square that you just go in, and you can feel a visceral vibration going on. And you're like, what
amazing.
is this? And
Yeah.
yeah, and in the underground tombs, they think that they're built like cells, like a computer chip. And they had one stone in there. They're like tons. They don't even fit. They're like, we measured the doorway to here. Like, they don't even fit. We have no idea how they cut them down here with laser precision and then got them on top. There's not enough space. And we're looking at how much space you'd have to maneuver a crane or whatever. And they thought that they could potentially like electrify them and then move them around, or like hover them, or just make them, buoyant to go up and down and left and right.
If you looked at the story of the pyramids, that how they were built, they would have to harvest a stone, transport it, and put it in place I think it's every 2 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever it is. It's ridiculous, for 20 years, day and night, without a break, to build it. Okay. Yeah. It's just insanity. The building methods that they used back then were not done with millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people. It's all nonsense. So just real quick, because a lot of people, I was looking at the chat and someone mentioned something about sunsets, and it's always a big question. There's a lot to it. The sunsets, the sun that we see first is, I don't believe it's a physical object. I believe that there's the true sun, and again, this is speculating, is above the firmament. And if you look in this model here, that's a sun that's moving around inside this model. And all it is it's the true source of the sun, which is, it'll show you in a second, which is an iPhone. Okay. It's just the light of a phone, a light above it. So perhaps the real sun is above the firmament and it's being projected into our reality. I don't believe that the moon is a physical object either. Now, I could be wrong. The moon could be something physical, but I don't think that there's big rocks floating in space. I think that everything in the lights, all the lights that we see in the sky above, are within the Earth system. And they may be projected, for lack of a better word. Like, here is a star. When we zoom in on it, this is the star Sirius, right? And here is Capella. Is this Capella? I think. Yeah, that's the star Capella. That doesn't look like what NASA shows us. Okay, I filmed that.
What is that?
That is the star Capella when you zoom in on it, right? And this is the star. This one is, I forget which one this is Arcturus. Look at that thing.
What did you film it with?
A P900 super zoom camera, right? Now, the P900 is only 83 times zoom. The P1000 is 125 zoom. Okay. You zoom in on these things, and this is what we're seeing. Okay. These are, in my opinion, sentient in nature. If you wonder how astrology works, it doesn't make any sense in the heliocentric, model where, oh, that planet is 25 million miles away and it's affecting my life. Or is that planet just above the clouds, and it's sentient in nature? That, it's energetic, it's all electric and magnetic. We live in this amazing system that when you really start looking at this stuff, it blows you away. So this is I call the sun fade out. So this is highly sped up, and I have a drone up on a super clear day. Okay. The drone's up in the sky, and I watched over a 5-minute period. The sun goes down, 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 and it's gonna show you. And it comes right to this apparent horizon here, and then it sits there for 10 minutes. It stops going down, and then it just gets smaller and smaller. It never goes down. It's not going down. It's going away, and it just fades out into the thickness of the air. Okay, there it goes again, and it fades out. It's still there. I got to reverse here. It doesn't go down. And this line right here, which is that eye level, with a camera level, wherever, is not the ground. That's where the clouds and the ground merge together, and we can't see the difference. Okay. That's our optical, the horizon isn't a physical place. It's an apparent position. And so as the sun moves down, moves away, it goes down, just like streetlights go down, 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 and they merge with the floor. I've been in a hotel in Vegas. The hallway's so long that if you're at one end of the hallway and you look at the other, the lights in the ceiling are touching the floor at the other end. But they're not. It's just perspective. So the sun appears to go down, and then it just fades out. But on a thicker atmosphere day where there's clouds and stuff, it'll just go. If this is the cloud line, and here's the sun, and the cloud line is way above your head, but in the distance, it's at your eye level. The sun just goes away, and it sets like that.
Okay, so if we're on the flat plane, right, and the sun is moving around like so, wouldn't it be moving left to right or right to left?
It's moving in a circle, as I showed you. So the sun goes around. It's the hour hand on the clock. They screwed us up by giving us the clock that goes around twice. If they put 24 hours on a clock, the hour hand is the sun, and it moves around once a day. And its light can't make it all the way to the other side. Just imagine you're in a giant room, a big giant gymnasium. All the lights are out. It's pitch black, and you take you light a candle on one end of the floor. It's going to light up just that area of the floor, and the other end of the room is going to be dark. It's not going to light up the whole room. Then put a layer of clouds in there, right? And the sun, that candle can be above the clouds a little bit, but if you're on the ground on the other end of the gym, you're not going to be able to see that candle because all the clouds the atmosphere is going to block any light, the visibility of the sun, and you're not going to be able to see it. Make sense?
It does, but I guess I'm just because the east to west thing, because if it's going up and down, that the sun rises and then goes down. If it were flat, wouldn't it go left to right?
Well, it doesn't matter. As it's coming by, 20 miles away, it looks like it's on the horizon. Comes closer, it's over your head, and then it goes and it looks like it's on the horizon again. Okay, right. So it's making an arc just due to perspective. So here's a little experiment we did where we're moving this candle away across the flat plane. This lens represents the atmosphere, and this is the camera that's filming it. Okay, it's going to show you in a second how that looks. But if you watch, here it is, and the cart's moving away. Hold on, I'm just zooming out here. And the sun will sink below this flat plane. Now, that camera's not going down. It's going away. It's just going away. And that's what happens. The atmosphere, it acts like a lens. It's not a theory. It's a fact. It magnifies things, but things as they go away get smaller. So they're getting smaller due to perspective, but it's also magnifying them. So it's a crazy thing. When you look at anything over a distance, it gets real fuzzy. You get all sorts of distortion, you get compression. So you have to take all of that into effect.
Right. That's interesting. Well, that video. I usually need a visual aid. I'm a very visual learner.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the why. Why, like I said, I have an understanding of why, but why would you go through all this trouble and that's a very fascinating thing you said about these people in the 1920s. Do you have recordings of those people by chance?
I do. It's on my channel. My YouTube channel is DITRH. It's the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. And you just look in there and scroll down, or just search the channel for Ruth, 102-year-old Ruth. It's there. It's been mirrored on 100 channels. You can just search YouTube for 102-year-old Ruth flat Earth. It'll come up.
That's pretty incredible. Like, teaching in that's something that I didn't know.
1920s.
And when you hear that, and then now I'm so curious about the damn World's Fair and what you said about the first reset. I'm like, God damn, probably, because with enough influence and power, you can literally shape our civilizations. And this has happened. This is not something new. I've only been on the planet 36 years. And so
plane.
Yeah, but
you've been on the plane.
I've only been on this flat desk.
So think about the timing of this. I couldn't believe it when Ruth told me that. I was like, wow. So then I came back and I'm doing all my podcasts and shows. And I'm like, everybody, if you have a family member or access to an old age home, I said, go find these people, these centenarians, people that are over 100 years old, and ask them, because we only have a little bit of time left, because they're all going to be gone. Because she was taught that when she was like 5, 6 years old, 7 years old. So we only have a very short period of time. So all of a sudden, people got real excited. The video went viral, and people are like, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to an old age home. I'm doing this. And then, bam, next week, no one can go to all the old age homes. COVID hit. Okay?
No kidding.
And nobody can go. So this whole thing could be my fault.
Man, you'd be like the worst. Imagine you were just like the total worst if you did that. Like, you son of a gun. That's insane.
They weren't going to roll this COVID thing out for another 10 years, but they're like, Weiss figured it out. They're going to find all of the old people. We must lock them down.
I know you're Neo from the Matrix. It's just a way different. That's
yeah. So let's talk about Neo from the Matrix and why it matters. If you remember the Matrix documentary, Neo was feeling like something's wrong with the world. And he was, at the beginning of the movie, he was like depressed, right? He was a depressed guy. I believe that most depression comes from, because we're here having our soul's journey. Our soul had a plan, and someone took our minds with the television and the drugs and everything else, and have diverted us from our soul's plan. And the farther you get away from your soul's plan, the more trouble you have, the more unhealth you have, the more distraught you become, the more depressed you become. And your soul knows what this place is. Your soul knows what's happening and had a plan for a lesson. And if you align with your soul, you're going to have a good life. You're going to have a good ride, because this is a ride, right? And the definition of good, some people will look at it like, oh my God, that's horrible. And the other person will be like, that's fantastic, So it all depends on your view there. So if your soul wants you to know where you live, that you are at the center of creation. Whoever it is, and I say it's pure evil that came up with this. You can put a name on it, Satan, whatever you want, for the heliocentric soul lure system. They're luring your soul away. They want you to believe that nothing exploded, created everything, created an amoeba that turned into a fish that grew legs, that found another fish that grew legs, had sex, had a monkey, and had a retarded baby, and it was a human. Okay? I mean, that's what they want you to believe. And that you're on this insignificant speck spinning out of control through an infinite universe where there's trillions of other specks. And at best, there's either no God, or at best a distant God. When the truth is, we are at the center of creation. We are here protected. This place was made for us. We're having, this incredible place that we're in, where, at God's creation, they don't want us to know that. Here's the thing. There's a lot of people that have found the creator and have found their soul's journey and are doing pretty well. And they believe they live on a ball because they've never really addressed it. Okay. But this is God's creation, this place, and we should respect it. You know, they teach us, you know, hey, respect the earth, you know, be good and don't litter. That's respect. But if you don't really understand what this place is, you're not really respecting it. You can take care of it the best that you can, but the earth is much more than just an ecosystem. This is an amazing, you know, gift to humanity. And I don't believe that we can live off of the earth. I don't believe that people can live you know, at in space, or even, you know, nearly. I don't think space exists. You know, there was test pilots back in the 60s and 70s that told stories that when they went to these incredible heights, they were seeing through their eyes, they were passing out, they were losing consciousness, all sorts of weird stuff was happening. I believe that, you know, to live, we need to be connected to this electrical earth that we're on, because we're electrical beings, you know, and we can only get so high before the shit starts falling apart. So the bottom line is, as I'm all over the place, is they're hiding the creator, because if everyone woke up tomorrow, by the way, before I knew the earth was flat, I was best described as an atheist. Okay. That I didn't believe in any God, and I believed in evolution and everything. And then when I discovered the earth was flat, I was like, oh my God, there's a creator. You know, whatever you want to say the creator is, that's up to you. That's your own journey. But this place was created. Okay. Some people say aliens created. You can say whatever you want. This place was created for us. We are at the center of creation. We are powerful spiritual beings, and they don't want us to know that our thoughts create our reality. They want to control our thoughts with fear, lack, you know, doom around every corner. You know, there's going to be nuclear bombs, which is not true.
I heard about that one. That's a new one for me. Someone said nuclear bombs aren't true. Hey,
Yeah.
I got a piece. So talk
All
about nuclear bombs, or show some video. I'll be back in like 2 seconds. Because I'm trying to pay attention. I was like, I gotta pee. I gotta be right back. This is good. Hold on. Yeah, nuclear bombs aren't real. Like what? Here, start going. Talk about that. Oh my God.
Nuclear bombs.
it's oh dear.
Go ahead. So nuclear bombs, people are like, what about Hiroshima and Nagasaki? You know, those, you know, that's what we believe in. And the couple videos that we've seen when we're in school, remember the video of the house blowing up and the trees bending over backwards? That's still on YouTube. Go find it. Look at it again with 2020 vision, and you'll realize that it's just a little claymation model, and it's complete nonsense. But 3 days after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the businesses were open. People were selling flowers on the street. The trains were running. That doesn't sound like a nuclear bomb. All of the buildings that had fireproofing, they did not get knocked down. It was a incendiary bomb. Yes, there was a ground zero, but there's also video of them stockpiling TNT there, like in a massive pile of TNT. Okay. So, but I don't know if you heard, I said, you know, 3 days after the Hiroshima, the stores were open. They were selling flowers on the street. The trains were open. People were going back to work. Okay. People, plants and animals and people are thriving there. There's more cancer in the United States than there is there. Okay. It's all nonsense. You know, nuclear bombs are just to scare the crap out of people. You know, the intercontinental ballistic missiles don't exist. Yes, we have Tomahawk missiles. I don't know how far they can go, but they can't go, you know, across the entire earth. They can go a certain distance, and they could be used to blow up little things. But there's no such thing as a nuclear bomb.
Okay, dang. All right, so new rabbit hole. Okay, what do you think of one of the things that I heard about this one really tripped me out. It's kind of a side note, but someone was, with the first time that I got flat earth, they said, you know, it's because the negative ETs that are here, they come from underground, and it's talking about the reptilians. And if you look at the Sumerians, and I actually went to a museum in Germany, and I can't remember what civilization, well, Sumeria, and they have these kind of like lizard things holding a pine cone. right? In carved in stone, and these are thousands of years old. And so you don't just carve random things, you know what I mean? And you look at the Sumerian kings list, and so there are references to these things. And so I'm like, that's a very fascinating idea. And,
Underworld civilizations make a hell of a lot more sense on a flat earth than they do on a spinning globe filled with lava. Okay.
yeah, and so they'd say, they make you think that they came from space, but they actually came from Earth,
They
and they're
could
underneath.
they're I believe that there's probably other realms below us, but again, I can't get there. I mean, there's all sorts of tunnels, we know about cities underneath the ground, the whole mud flood thing, but who knows what's below us? Nobody knows, because the deepest hole ever dug is short of 8 miles, where they hit an impenetrable barrier and they can't get through it no matter what they do. They've tried for years. So saying we know what's below 8 miles is nonsense, because we didn't know what was in the first 8 miles as we dug. We were wrong every step of the way. When they're like, oh, there's no more water. Oh, we hit water. Whatever it was, they didn't know. They got through the skin of the apple and they think they know what's in the core. Right.
Well,
So,
yeah,
so again, I think there's a dome above us, and maybe above that is another realm. I don't know. Okay. But and then beyond Antarctica, as I was showing with that other map, that could be, alien extraterrestrials. They come from the extra terra. Here's some extra territory. So, and all they do is they can fly on a conventional plane and land in Australia.
yeah, and that would make reasonable sense. You know what I mean? Like, okay, that seems plausible. If we're not spinning in this ball in outer space at God knows how fast. Um, Oh yeah, so what I was gonna say is Robert Grant. He was on the show recently. I was with him in Egypt, a really brilliant mathematician. And one of the things he said on his latest excursion, they went underneath the Sphinx, and he said that it opened up to this like massive underground, like there was stories high underneath, like, and he's like, you could see the stairway, and it was this huge, massive opening of this whole underground scenario, and they've only excavated a small portion underneath the pyramid, the plateau, only a very tiny portion. They won't let people go down there, and that's where most of the stuff is. And so, why would they close that off? And if you look at anything with secret societies or even Satanism and Luciferianism, one of the guys that I've kind of looked a little bit more into his work recently is Mark Passio, because he's
Mark's
fascinating in the
great.
sense that he had was a former priest in the Church of Satan, and talking about these Luciferian sins, and keeping the knowledge and letting other people go, be stupid. And if you look at the all-seeing eye and all of those different things, if you have the knowledge, then you have more power over other people. It's the same thing in martial arts and jujitsu and hand-to-hand combat. If I know what I'm doing, I have power over you. So that's a special power, right? If everybody that's basically what war was, or the Spartans, they had this effective fighting, they had power, they could protect themselves with knowledge. You share that with someone else, it gives them power. So what levels of knowledge do the city folk or the quote unquote sheep like us like have access to? And the thing is, most people are really happy to live in their reality and not question everything. And in very much the same way, I feel like Neo, where as long as I can remember, I'm like, something is messed up with this place. People are going around like nothing is wrong, like completely ignoring all of this evil stuff. Something is happening. And every time I peeled back a rabbit hole around health, around food, around war, around school, around media, around music, I could find evil, pure, honest, awful evil. And Alex Sakaris been on the podcast, and he wrote a book. He does a skeptical podcast. So, but interestingly, we were turning germ theory, and he goes, that's flat earth science. And I was like, well, have you ever been flat earth? Like, how do you know? And I was like, I'm willing to admit I don't know much about anything. Right. And so I'll listen to both. I'm totally fine with my own humility and what I know, and you can think whatever you want. But, I think a lot of people have this like notion that they know. I don't know.
We've been brainwashed to believe that we have 1,000 globe proofs and that there's 0 flat earth proofs. But the opposite is true. Okay. I can show you experiment after experiment, observation after observation that show that the earth is flat and stationary. Every single scientific experiment that's done through history to prove that the earth is spinning or curved has failed, and it didn't show any curvature, and it showed zero motion. It showed the opposite of what they were trying to prove. So they went in biased to prove it was spinning and came out flat. And that's when they stuck Einstein in to bring in the stupid relativity nonsense and get rid of the ether. And it's all about control that way. So
what's the what do people say now? What's the best truth that the earth is spinning? What do they say?
You said you're a moron, get out of your mother's basement. That's the number one proof. Okay. The other one is where did you get your degree? So they're submitting their common sense to supposed authority. The other thing is they always point up at the lights in the sky. The moon is round, therefore the earth is round. And I say, well, go look up at the stars. Look at the lights in your ceiling and tell me what shape your floor is. See all of these balls, all of these moons? Well, that one's a cup, right? Is the next one, which one is that? Is this one a ball? Nope, it's flat. All right. Is this one a ball? Nope, it was convex. So we're looking up at the sky. We don't know how big something is. We don't know anything. We don't know what it's made of. That's the only one that's a ball.
So what do you think? What do you think the moon is, or the planets are?
Again, it's all speculation. I don't, when the moon goes to a new moon, which is no moon, right? When it's waning, and then there's no moon. There's no moon for over 40 hours. Nobody has been able to spot the moon after it goes new for over 40 hours. Okay. For over 40 hours. That's almost 2 full days. No, they haven't been able to get it from the International Fake Station. They haven't been able to do it from a high flying aircraft, from mountaintops, from wherever. No one's been able to see it. No matter what kind of camera you can use, infrared camera, no one's been able to see it. So we have a full moon here, by the way, which is lit up like from edge to edge. If it was a single source light lighting a sphere, it would be a hot spot and then it would fade out to the edges. But this is lit from edge to edge. So if you go out on a full moon or near full moon night away from the city lights, the moon is so bright you can read by it, right? Yes?
Yeah.
The moon's so bright it casts your shadow on the ground. You could see your shadow on the ground from the moonlight, right? Right? This is a fact. This is a theory. So they tell us the moon is a dusty, dirty rock that's reflecting sunlight this fucking bright that it can travel 238,000 miles and I could read by it. Okay. That's insanity. And if you get into the inverse square law of light and how light, because light as it travels gets dimmer and dimmer exponentially, it would have to be so bright that them standing on it, it would be as bright as the sun almost. But it's not. It's a dusty, dirty ball is what they show us. So the earth is much shinier than this dusty, dirty ball. It has water, it's just shinier. It's 6 times larger too. So how come when there's a new moon, the whole lit side of the earth is facing the new moon? How come the earth shine doesn't light up the moon so we can see it? It's 6 times brighter, 6 times bigger. It's much more reflective. How come the earth shine doesn't light up the moon? Because the moonshine lights up the earth, but the earth shine doesn't light up the moon. I don't believe that the moon is actually even there. When there's a new moon, I don't think there's any moon. Okay. I don't think there's any moon at all. So again, the moon is the biggest mystery. Now the moon clearly affects people's moods, attitudes, women's reproductive cycles. Right? You with me? You agree? You agree with that?
Yep.
So I don't see how a rock in space could have that effect. Right? There's lots of, people that have talked about where they believe that the moon has something to do with the delivery and the removal of souls on Earth. I don't know. Moon's a big mystery.
Well, that's an interesting one. Do you know anything about eclipses? Because I don't speak about it on the podcast or publicly, only to friends, because and I'm not going to now. I'll just say that I went to the eclipse in Oregon, and
Yeah.
I observed something as nobody was looking. Nobody was looking at the eclipse. You know, they had the little glasses on. I'll just say that I had a way to observe, and what I observed changed how I thought about everything ever. It just changed everything. I could tell you more about what actually happened off air if you want, but it changed everything I thought about astrology, about planets, about where the hell we are, about life. It was one of those game changing things, and I was like, oh my god, no one else is seeing this. What the hell am I looking at?
Yeah, I observed that same eclipse without glasses, staring right at it. Besides my eyesight getting better after that, the what I saw was crazy. I mean, it was like chaos in my eyes. But I don't know what the eclipse is, but I'm trying to pull up a video, and YouTube has just made a change where I can't pull up my regular playlist that easy. Um, um, Talk for a minute while I try to figure this out.
Well, one of the things I want you to go into, so yeah, that's a wild thing. So maybe it was something similar. I don't want to advocate for people doing anything out of their own risk, but I hear a lot of stories. But it was an interesting experience. I had an impulse in my inner world and thought, if nobody was here, what would I do? And I chose to do that for the entire eclipse, and it was a very transformational experience.
Yeah. You know how you know that something special about the eclipse? What does the government tell you and offer you free stuff for? They they say, whatever you do, don't look at the eclipse.
Right, you'll go blind.
How many people have gone blind from the eclipse? Eclipses. Don't you think if you could go blind from looking at the eclipse, we'd have thousands of people every eclipse going blind? Right? You tell someone not to look at something, they're going to look at it. Right? No one goes blind. They don't want you looking at the eclipse because I think that there's a data transfer there that's going on that's beyond what most people can realize. Here, I got a video. Is this the right one though? Hold on.
Hopefully the next one's people don't hear that. The next one's too bright, they get smoked. Yeah, like I'll say that that's a plausible theory. We'll speak more about it after.
Right. So they're giving out free eclipse viewing glasses.
Yeah, the fleet. I know it didn't make any sense to me. I was like, nothing made sense. You know what I mean? And that was like, a test. So again, I don't want to go too far into it to advocate too much, but yeah, everyone's got these little glasses. I was like, if I were like, what did indigenous people do at this time? Did they look away? Like maybe, if I think that if you stare at it too long, or even just the sun generally, you can sear out your eyeballs. Like it's probably possible. You want to exercise thought, but maybe not. And I feel like it's like Wim Hof being able to withstand the cold. You know what I mean? There are levels to what people are capable of. Or the Shaolin monks, they punch brick full force. There are stages, and you got to earn certain levels of abilities in this game of whatever it is.
All right, so let me give you can you see my screen? You see my eclipse video?
Yeah.
All right. So on the right is the actual eclipse that I was looking at, and the sky had a little bit of chemtrail smog in it, so it actually helped in viewing. And so we see the eclipse happening, and on the left it showed I'll go back a little bit. This is my recreation of an eclipse. I'm using a paper towel, and I'm using a sun. The paper towel represents the sky, and then the projector, the sun, the source was behind the paper towel. So here's the actual eclipse, and this is a video that someone took out west somewhere, and you see this little eclipse happening here, and then you have this is a lens flare. Because it's one that's flipped and it's moving around. But this one is, you see my mouse, right?
Yeah.
This one's locked in position next to the sun. And that is about the amount the eclipse was actually happening at
Lower
that
right.
time.
I realized last time with Robert Grant, people don't know where the mouse is. Only I can see it. So the mouse is just bottom right-ish.
It'll actually, I have some arrows coming up,
Okay.
but the bright sun, that's actually the eclipse at the same amount, but it's just blown out because it's so bright. We're seeing a ball, but in reality, the eclipse is that little crescent that's actually happening. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is that? And we're like, is that a lens flare? And my speculation is that is the actual source of the sun outside or within the firmament. Okay. So I've recreated it. The paper towel represents the sky, which is the screen that we see things on. And so there's outside of the firmament, there's the source of the sun. And I have my new moon coming in and projecting onto the sun. And you don't see the moon approach or exit the face of the sun because it's not really there. It's just blocking the sun. You with me?
Okay.
So if that moon was half lit, you would see a half lit moon on the paper towel, right? But because it's not lit, there's nothing to project into our reality. So that was my first experiment. But then I realized, hey, if I have a thinner towel, and now I went with tissue paper, and I did the same thing again. Look at that thing right there. There's that little crescent. And that is, we're looking through the paper towel and seeing the source of the projection. The projection is the big sun on the left. And this right here is the source. And so I'm saying that perhaps that is the source. You with me?
So you're basically suggesting in this experiment that the sun would be a projected light source or energy source on the other side of a firmament, and the firmament would be the paper towel in this experiment.
Right. And the firmament, well, no, the paper towel in the experiment is the sky. Okay.
Yeah.
It's actually just the sky. So it's being projected into us. So, if you remember the little model I had up earlier, which is this, there's the sun that's inside, and that's the sun that we see, this little dot. And if I actually eclipse that light, in half, that sun would turn into a half sun, right? If I eclipse the light up here, that sun inside in our world would get eclipsed. If I had another light up here, a half lit moon, that half lit moon would be in there.
Well, it's interesting that it produces the exact same effect, and there is references to firmament in the Bible, in these ancient alchemical texts. The fact that you're talking about these old, these 100-year-old ladies talking about being taught the flat earth. All of that's super compelling, knowing that right now, I think that we live in a Luciferian, where evil people run the world. And I think that because 9.1 million people starved to death, I've looked very much in depth in some of our systems in the world, and they're very evil. And just by the definition of Rudolf Steiner, anything that seeks to restrict or bind by definition is Luciferian. If this world made half a sense, like, Atlantis, or like, I don't know, what we could imagine a society where people were cooperative and respectful and peaceful and helpful and all the great things of humanity, it would not be what we're in now. It's total manipulation, crap show, distraction, black magic. It's just crazy how really evil what is going on. And with the eclipse, one of the things that I observed that changed my view on everything is I was going over, right? Everyone was fine to watch then, and then it started to change. And basically, what I saw was a tube of light, like a flashlight, shoot across the sky, like you were holding the brightest flashlight of all time. It shot across the sky, and then what happened was reality, like almost like one of those cosmic Mayan calendar type of deals. I could see this mandala in the thinnest layers create reality once again, one at a time, being like in infinite layers. And I was like, what? And there are other things that happen too. And it was like, I was like, I don't know what this means. Maybe it is nothing, but I think that whatever that marker was some sort of special marker. And yeah, so it was really profound. So go ahead.
So people say, well, how do you predict, those heliocentric model predicts flat eclipses? No, it doesn't. They've been predicting eclipses for thousands of years. The Antikythera mechanism, which was discovered in the ocean off of Greece, is a clock that shows that the eclipses run in an 18-year and 11 days, I think, an 18-year cycle. And then they repeat again and again and again, like a perfect clock. The eclipses are part of the sky clock. Okay. If we lived in a crazy universe spinning, like they tell us, all of those gravities would be yanking on each other and the whole thing would just become a crazy angry beehive and nothing would ever repeat. And there's a YouTuber called Taboo Conspiracy, a great flat earther. And he says the way that the number one proof we don't live on a spinning ball is we'd all be dead. Okay. We'd all be dead if the earth was a globe, period. We couldn't live on a spinning ball. So eclipses repeat every 18 years. Just let that sink in, right? The sky is a clock. We're just trying to figure it out. And it's talking about seasons and days, seasons, years. We're coming up on December 21st is the changing of a completely new cycle we're going into. There's a big planetary alignment. Check out Crow 777 Radio. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yep.
Awesome podcast, and he talks a lot about that. Anybody else, that's what I wanted to say. If you're still reeling about no nukes, Crow has a couple of episodes. If you just go to Crow 777, Crow with 2 R's, CRROW 777radio.com, and search for no nukes. There's a couple episodes there, and all you got to do is listen to 1 or 2 of those, and then you will know there's no nukes. So
okay, so what I want to ask is, I kind of want you to go back and how does being a flat earth, like understanding the flat earth, like why does that make you believe more in a god or a creator, and does it give you like a sense of spirituality in some sort of way? Like what is it that made that happen exactly?
Well, I looked at all religions, throughout my life, and I just never bought into it. And, I have all sorts of problems with it. And I just, believed what they were teaching me in school, evolution and all the nonsense. The heliocentric, system, the soul lure system. I say that they're trying to lure our soul away, Satan or whatever, or whoever, pure evil. So why does flat earth make me believe in God or creator? Because we're not a random speck that happened by accident, where this is a clearly designed, for lack of a better word, magical place. It's not an accident. There's a designer. Okay. And that designer can best be described as God. I don't know a better word.
I dig it. I like it. And so does this make you, what do you feel about free will in that kind of environment?
I believe that we have total free will. Otherwise we'd all be dead right now, because the Luciferians that are running this place, if they could just kill us, they would. But they have to get our permission, right? If you look at all of the, the people in Hollywood and government, they've all sold their souls. They're toast. The soul lure system, they're trying to steal our soul. So you don't want to sell your soul. Your goal here on this ride that we call life on earth is to maintain control of your soul. That's it. Don't lose control of your soul. Harmonize with it. Don't sell it. Don't let other evil spirits enter your body and take control. Okay. Don't let them hijack your soul. And that's it. It's easily done because you don't lose control of anything unless you willingly give it away. So if you're home going, oh my God, the corona's going to get me, global warming, we're going to run out of fuel. What do I do? And they're like, oh, here, government's like, here, let us, inject you and let us do this and let us do that. If you say yes, you've lost part of your soul. You've lost part of your divinity. Okay. They want to turn us into automatons. This vaccine very well might disconnect you, make you unable to connect spiritually, may shut down your third eye more than the fluoride that they inject into us, and every way they can, is calcifying our pineal gland. They the goal is to take over our souls. So I think did that answer the question? I'm spinning a little bit.
No, I actually agree with everything you said there. I pulled up this Rudolf Steiner quote, and I got to read more of his books, but he has this quote that says, "I have told you that the spirits of darkness are going to inspire their human hosts in whom they will be dwelling, to find a vaccine that will drive all inclination towards spirituality out of people's souls when they are still very young." And I think that when I was talking about Alex Sakaris earlier, the Skeptical podcast, I forgot to mention that the reason why I brought him up was he wrote a book, Why Evil Matters, How Science and Religion Flubbed a Big One. And the big thing to understand is that there are people here that really are causing a ton of harm, and they want the worst for you. And as much as you obey, they will do. And what you shared there about, the point of being on earth is to keep and protect your soul. I feel like that's maybe one of the best and most basic ways to describe the human experience and what it means to remain spiritually congruent or connected. And when each and every circumstance, like doing that thing in your gut that you know is correct, like keeping your soul. I was interviewed on a podcast, and I was doing some coaching with some people and just kind of talking about that, and the times in my life where somebody would do something that was not congruent. Now, definitely I've sinned. I can assure you I've done a lot of things that I am not proud of, and I'm not perfect, but there are other times where, when I was clear enough and knew what the right thing was to do, I made that choice, and it can be very, very challenging. And we don't want to give our minds to other people, and we don't want to give our spirits to other people. And we don't want to, especially if they don't have our best interest at heart. And so what I'd love for you to chime in, but I want to ask, like, what do you think about, like, kind of like spirits or other beings or things like that? Do you think that plays a role in all this?
Absolutely. I mean, my understanding is we have a main soul, and then we have a whole family of souls inside our body, and
Hmm.
they come and go, and they do their things here. And your main soul, I think, can only leave your body. This is my belief. When you're sleeping, when you're in a deep sleep, and then it has to return before you reanimate. And whatever, I don't know what it does when it's outside of your body. That's maybe when you have an out of body experience or whatever. So when you have that horrible feeling in your stomach, I think that's your soul talking to you. Like, hey, you're don't do that. That's not good. And they're trying to steer you. They're trying to, but you have, again, back to the free will. We have total free will. That's the psyop, is they don't want you to believe that you have free will. They can't do anything to us. So, the Constitution doesn't give us our rights. It just tells us what our God-given rights are for those people that don't realize that we have free will. They can't take it from us. Um, Evil spirits can only enter you when you allow them to, right? All you have to say is no, thank you. You're not allowed in here. Go away. I do not give you permission. All the vampire movies, they have to ask permission to come in. They're telling you that these vampiric entities can't enter you unless you welcome them in. They can trick you, they can fool you, but they won't. They can't enter or affect you unless you let them. The only thing to fear is fear itself.
Yeah, I've heard that from many different people, and it makes sense because if you look at predictive programming and you look at even what's going on in the world today with current events and what people actually say publicly, they actually, I think it's part of this messed up rules is they literally have to tell you what they've done or what they're doing. So my question for you would be, I'm looking at stuff. I'm sure you see the plan with Klaus Schwab. He wrote a book on this. We know what they want to do, put a chip in our arms. You know, a friend of mine that I'm coaching, she's like, hey, did you know about this vaccine 060606? I'm like, are the chip and the Bill Gates chip? I was like, yeah, I've been telling you about that. Like, so
Right.
if we want to we're kind of in this slave debt money system, right? And so how do we remain honorable but provide for our family, because we need the slave tokens to go get the money to make the good choices, right? People are like, well, I gotta eat, man.
No, I
I
got it.
gotta.
I got it, and it's not easy. But the answer is, first we have to start to migrate away from their system. A lot of people don't like cryptocurrency, but I like cryptocurrency a little bit. I try to trade in cryptocurrency and real money, which is silver and gold. I also try to trade with people. I try to barter with people. I make an amazing hot sauce. I make a couple hundred bottles of hot sauce every year,
I
but
love hot sauce.
I refuse to sell it. I'd rather give it away, or I'll trade it. Okay. I'll trade it. I actually have our local little diner has my hot sauce on their counter. I give it to them just for fun, because it actually has my flat earth clock label on it. So people are eating hot sauce, having eggs, and they're turning into flat earthers. They don't know it. But one guy at the restaurant wanted the hot sauce. It's like, the guy's like, hey, this guy wants to contact you. He wants to buy hot sauce. I'm like, it's not for sale. I said, but I'll trade it. He's like, what for? I'm like, I don't know. What do you got? Well, the guy's got a 65-foot yacht. He's going to take us out on the yacht. Hey, that's worth a bottle of hot sauce, right? Comes with cocktails and food too. So
yeah,
again, trade with your friends, find a network of people and offer your services to each other and get out of the dollar, right? Because the dollar is going to be useless in less than 2 years, if not 2 months. It's going to, you're going to need $1,000 to buy a loaf of bread if you can find one.
Geez. So what do you think we should, well, with that, what do you think we should do?
What I think we should do is really start connecting with the earth again. If you don't know, if you have 10 square feet of fertile soil, grow a garden. Okay. I don't care where you are. If you get sunlight and soil, build a bed, fill it with dirt, learn how to grow food, because that's, connecting with the earth. Again, figure out a network, the entire, with this whole COVID shutdown, they're getting rid of all small businesses. So, many people that still have jobs aren't going to have jobs. You got to find something that you can do that works. We need to get into, groups of people. We have the flat earth community is an amazing group of people. They're all awake to the COVID nonsense. They're all awake. There's lots of people awake to the COVID nonsense, but all the flat earthers are awake, which is amazing. There's something about when you know where your feet are planted, you can all of a sudden see everything else. It just, again, be awake, be kind, help, be charitable, do the best that you can do. Again, it's a scary time, because money, they have us, we're in a spiritual war, right? Just so you know this, right? And what have they trained us to worship? Number one, above God. What have they trained us to worship?
Money?
The dollar.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you look at the $1 bill, which they haven't changed, they changed all the other stuff for 9/11. That's a whole nother story. It has so many devil worshiping signs on it, and everybody worships the dollar. Okay. So this is a dollar is just an exchange of energy, right? We need to get away from that. If you have some money, there's so many people that hate cryptocurrency. I think it's a way away from the dollar that could help take them down. The government doesn't like crypto because they see that if people switch to crypto, they lose all their power.
Well, yeah, you're right. It's getting off all of those systems. Like, I got deleted from Facebook and my Instagram got deleted. I'm on YouTube right now, but they're starting to give me strikes. And so I'm putting everything in house and inviting, people to come onto the platform that I have. It's in Kajabi. But, if you're listening to this, go there because they apparently even they're getting MailChimps and things like this. And it's so crazy the level of censorship, but we got to not use those platforms. If all the users get
Right.
off, like Library is going up there,
Yep.
Telegram, Parlor, and then they have the psyop out there too about, oh yeah, and the evil people too. I want to say this about the Luciferian stuff. It's unfortunate. Like this is like, again, good to go back to Alex Sicarius saying like why evil matters, how science and religion flubbed a big one. It's this massive cognitive dissonance of evil, and it's why they're able to run amok, is because we're not addressing that. And even in the Church of Satanism and Luciferianism, that's kind of what they teach you. They want to do that through solipsism, and some of the New Age stuff is like, not look at this, to not participate, to not stand up, to do anything. The generations of, making masculinity bad and wrong. You know what I mean? It's just like, well, now we don't have people who are courageous to stand up to something that they see as wrong. And when I did work with the International Tribunal of Natural Justice, like this stuff give you nightmares, but the numbers and the atrocity and what is being done, this needs to stop. So I want to ask your opinion on how do you see things trending with all your work? What do you think we should do? And then as a side note, what do you think about Elon Musk? Because friends send me this stuff and he goes, he's married to Grimes, right? If you look at Grimes, videos, she is just such an overt Satanist, flesh and blood, livid dreams. Genesis is sick. We appreciate it's all sick. It's all super sick. Eating stuff.
Who is Grimes?
Grimes is Elon Musk's wife, or the
Okay.
one that had the baby with. And so he sent me this thing because we've had some interesting experiences together, and just called a succubus. It's this woman that maybe influences him. Maybe he was evil before. I don't know. Maybe he's evil now. I don't know. Maybe he's the greatest guy ever. I don't know. But I look at the videos you're putting out in the world, and I know what they're doing, and I know what they mean. Even like the two of the three people in Black Lives Matter, the heads, I forget their names, the Agarza or something. I watched some of the video, and they did this satanic ritual, which was really disturbing. And maybe we could talk about this. I don't know, that Hadron Collider. Did you see the satanic ritual that was recent?
Oh
In
my
like this,
God, incredible.
that
That
was
and
recent,
the
right?
Gothard Tunnel, right? That one too.
Yeah,
The Underworld, right?
yeah, what it was, so like, it's just so sick. And so you can't watch that. Well, you could. It's people's cognitive dissonance is insane. But you
Yeah.
watch it and you're like, oh, it's like, holy, you have to wake up to that. And then once you do, it's absolutely terrifying. But I think we need more people to wake up so we can then nullify it, so we can
Right.
do something about it. And so many people's solution is just to ignore it, to go about their day, to really just shackle themselves into this system that doesn't support
Right.
life, right? It's not
Right.
life affirming.
Yeah, it's the whole thing with the tunnel and the Hadron Collider. They have the Shiva is the statue that's outside there, right? The goddess of war. Um, what's going on there isn't what they're saying. I don't know what's going on there. It's insane. You know that there's another collider on the tip of Long Island. I think I forget the name of it, Bellhaven or something like that. It's a smaller collider, but it's pointing mechanism. If you draw a line from the center to it's got the loop, and then it's got a building. If you draw a line to the building, which is the firing arm, and it goes straight down Long Island Sound, all the way down to Lower Manhattan, and it goes right in between where the two towers were. Okay, and then there's another one, I believe, in Pennsylvania in this weird spot that points, it hits nothing. There's nothing in between it and the towers again. What is up with that?
Oh, you got to say that again. I was going in the YouTube comments and
There's two colliders that are a couple hundred miles apart that are
Pointing at
pointing
each other.
directly at the Twin Towers.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, insane. Right at the Twin Towers.
Huh. Wow.
Right?
I didn't know that.
It's the only thing they're pointing at.
We may as well. Your previous podcast was like the conspiracies, but it's it's so interesting. Yeah, people will call it. It's annoying how effective that word is, conspiracy, because
Yeah.
you're just trying to find the truth, and then
Yeah.
that's such a great. If you know magic and you know manipulation or even martial arts, you have to hide what you're doing in plain sight, and it's amazing what some people have gotten away with. Like even right now, like I said to my friend in Canada, we just released that 98% of the deaths in Canada from coronavirus were in long-term care facilities, with the average death of 82 to 86. The average life expectancy in Canada is 84. And then on top of that, frig, what else do we got? I don't know. Oh yeah. So the excess morbidity isn't up. And so
Right.
I present all three of those facts to my friend, and his brain still can't accept it. I was like, if it is a pandemic, like people do die in long-term care, that is
Right.
the average age of death, and there is no excess morbidity. But what
Right.
we do know is we can find a money trail to Bill Gates, who says overtly population control, who we know is not a good person. His dad was a eugenicist.
Right.
And we can find all that money trail, but you don't want to look at that, so you're going to go sign up and get this thing. People are just really
So
lazy. They don't want to.
here's my belief on what's happening. I believe that every 100 years they redo the exact same thing. In 1918, we had the Spanish flu. Well, guess what? The first people to get sick were all the guys that came home from the war that were heavily vaccinated, and they were all really sick. So they told the whole country, you need to get vaccinated to protect our heroes. So everybody got vaccinated, and everybody was wearing masks back then, right? And a lot of people died from from bacterial pneumonia from wearing their stupid masks. Okay, so now we got tests going on where they're poking at your blood-brain barrier, right? A disease that supposedly my spittle can travel 5.9 feet and kill you, but they got to stick a thing to the back of your brain to get. Why don't you just spit on a Q-tip? Okay, it's ridiculous. And then they're going to roll out these vaccines so fast, and we have to get 2 of them 3 weeks apart. There's no way. The thing is, there's so many people that aren't going to get the vax, but even if they only vaxed half the country, okay, I think this is going to be the biggest depopulation event ever. You got to look up Deagle.com, Deagle, Deagle, or EL, Deagle.com. And look at the population numbers for the United States and for Europe. They have, for 2025, the expected population in the United States is 99 million.
I think I saw something like that. What is it? A reputable website that is
It
projecting
is.
that?
It's been
Yeah.
up. It's a like quasi government website. It talks about gross national product and everything. It shows China's going down by 2 million people, which is nothing. Europe's going down by even more percentage wise than the United States. It's all of these Western countries that are going to have these vax rollouts that they're predicting mass die off in the next 4 years. I don't know.
I
don't know what's going on, man.
had seen that before. So what would be the road to safety? And then the question is,
Oh,
if we are sovereign
yes.
free will beings, and I
Yeah.
have the creator in me, which I would, and
Yes.
I'm powerful and free, that's a terrifying thing. So I'm like, how powerful and free am I? Like,
so here it is. Here you asked, I was like, what did he ask me before? What can we do? What we can do is not comply. When I go shopping, I'm the only person without a mask in that store. 1,000 people, right? You too. And when they and it's been getting worse though. Like I went to Staples the other day, and there's nobody in the friggin' store, and the cashier wouldn't check me out, and they called the manager over, and I had to school them the whole thing, school them. And they're like, well, you can go outside and call us and we'll bring it out to you. And I'm like, no, and I explained a lot of them, and they're trying to claim that they're a private business. I'm like, no, you're not. And I wouldn't leave. And I told them that I'm going to leave with the stuff if they don't take my money, because that's actually the law. If they refuse to take your money, that means you can have it for free. So again, it's horrible. It's exhausting. I go out. It's like, I didn't actually go out today. I don't even know what it's like outside today because I stayed in all day. It's crazy, but that's not a good thing. That's not what you should do. You should live your life the best that you can and not comply. You can't wake everybody up, but you can share information for those willing to listen. You can lead a man to knowledge, but you can't make them think. Or you could lead. What was the? It was another one. I forgot it. So again, don't comply. Don't cave in. Don't be like, oh, I really want to go to that concert, and Ticketmaster won't sell me the ticket unless I have a vaccine pass. And if I'm not telling you not to get the vaccine, but if you are dumb enough to get the vaccine, this is just my opinion. I'm just for YouTube.
That's where as long as we're allowed here, because it's all gonna be erased. And like I'm saying, like I watched I can't find it, and I really wanted it, but it was like a 4-hour thing on Rockefeller education, and it was this old presentation. It was so well done, and now zipped, gone. And
it might be on stoplookthink.com.
Okay, Stop. Yeah, if and they lay it out, and then you're like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Yeah. And if you look at people of like integrity, intelligence, character, contribution, wholeness, spiritual values, they're easy to see. And it's easy to see people who are, pious in their, in their education, the new PhDs and all this stuff. And, education's fine and all, but you also have other factors of wisdom and intelligence, and we're just putting it all to intellect in these institutions where it's very compartmentalized. And if you look at what a human being is capable of in all of the different facets of intelligence, why is that any better than being able to build a house from the ground up? That's probably more intelligent, to be able to build and survive here and thrive. So we're just kind of, it's the inversion of reality. That's what it is. We're now our immune systems are meaningless. Good diet is meaningless.
That's the other thing. They're doing everything they can to make us unhealthy, taking away our source of income, telling us to stay inside, having us rebreathe our own toxins after poking holes in our blood-brain membrane. They're not letting us have human contact. They're taking away our ability to see faces, which is a form of contact, which is makes your brain grow when you're interpreting people's faces. They're removing all our new relationships. Every single relationship starts off with a smile. Well, guess what? That's been taken away 99% of the time now. So they're doing everything they can to make us sick. Then if anyone that holds their arm out and gets that vaccine, my opinion is you won't make it till 2025. So, we're going into some time. So what can you do? You can not comply and do your best to prepare for what's coming, and not be in fear. That may be the journey that your soul was planning on. I believe that we came here knowing what was going to happen, and we're on a journey to do the best that we can and have an experience and improve our soul.
Damn. Well, I love it. Well, this has been fantastic. I could probably talk to you for another few hours. We'll have to do another one because we're only touching on flat Earth conspiracy. We could go into 9/11. We could go into all kinds of stuff that you're well versed in.
Can, but not on YouTube. Not on YouTube.
Yeah, not on YouTube. Yeah, and it's funny because like the podcast and some of the friends, like it's all been on personal development and spirituality. But I've been into the rabbit holes of wanting to know the truth on all of these things. 9/11, like the real history of humanity. And so
if you want to learn about 9/11 or the thing that happened in Connecticut or the one in Boston or all of the other ones, stoplookthink.com, go to the hoaxes drop down, click on that, bring popcorn and some hot chocolate or whatever you want, and dive in, because all the information's there that YouTube has removed. Hey, let me just share the app one more time. I make t-shirts is one way if you wanted to support me, besides getting the app, which is $2.99. This t-shirt over here is a cool one. But in the app, if you hit the settings button and you scroll down, you can go right to the t-shirt shop and all sorts of cool flat earth shirts. Like if you're into flat earth and you don't want to, be that obvious, you can wear, different shirts. I have some COVID shirts on there, different stuff just for fun. And that's it. And then the app again is called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. If you search Google Play or Apple for Flat Earth Clock, it'll come right up. And it's by Blue Water Bay, just to be sure you're getting the right one. And that's it, man. This is great talking to you.
So where do people find more about you and your work?
Yeah, my work, my YouTube channel is DITRH, the shortest. It's the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. And I do mostly all short videos, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Like if I do a video, it's like 7 minutes. People are like, oh, you did a documentary, you know? So all short videos on flat earth that will help you learn. But the best place to find me is on the app, because I'm changing that every day, adding new content every day. It is nobody so far has taken the flat earth challenge and not become a flat earther. So do not take the flat earth challenge unless you are prepared to deal with the fact that you will become at least a globe skeptic. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Globe
And I
skeptic
think,
happens in day one. Full flat earther before 2 weeks.
yeah, and honestly, like for me, like when I look at what I know, like vaccines, we're supposed to just accept they're safe, right? And then when you take the time to peel all that back, you're like, holy smoke, something is going on here. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's wild. So I say question everything, you know what I mean? And usually there is an agenda, and that's the challenge. Like, these people in Canada that are health experts, I didn't elect you to do anything for me. Frig
Yeah.
you.
Think about this. We are created perfectly. Our bodies are created. God created us perfectly with an immune system. This vaccine is going to change your DNA. Okay, you are no
Yeah.
longer God's perfect creation, right? And so a lot of people, there's probably a lot of people that work in hospitals and places where they're going to be required to get a vaccine. Um, Going back to Crow 777 Radio, just their last episode is worth its weight in gold. They have a nurse on who took a new job with a hospital across the country, moved her whole family across the country. She had a contract with them that she would not get vaccinated. They agreed, and when she got there, like, oh, you have to get vaccinated. And it got into this whole back and forth. And by herself, without any lawyers or anything, she got the giant hospital to back down and sign. She wrote a paper based on the stuff that she heard on Crow, to get them to agree not to give her the vaccine. And basically the gist of it was that she is her a perfect creation. And then when she leaves work, she can leave all of her work stuff there, and it must be removed. So they can't put something in her that they can't remove. Amazing letter. So if anyone is looking for information on how to refuse the vaccine, because you can't just say no, you have to kind of give them a counter offer. I'll take your
Are you
vaccine.
talking about a notice of liability?
Yeah, it's like a notice liability, but they're taking this stuff to the next level. I'm telling you, sign up for Crow and just get that last episode, or he did a whole series of them recently, and you will have information that is going to benefit you in the very near future, because we're all going to need this stuff to be able to fight the tyranny that's coming.
Man, well, that sounds terrifying. I don't care for it.
That's the thing. Don't be terrified. We're on a roller coaster. I love roller coasters, and it's a massive puzzle, but there is a solution. There's always a solution. And so, I'm feeling very accomplished in my journey, because I'm figuring all these things out. I've yet to put a mask on. Okay. I had to put a bandana on. My daughter got in an accident, had to get some facial surgery in New York City, and I had to go into the hospital. So I put a bandana on. Okay. A bandana. But since I haven't worn a mask once, besides that. So again, as we figure these things out, we're making roads to a future that, will benefit us. I don't know how, there's some insane times coming soon, but it all depends on your attitude, how you ride through them.
So you think God, nature, spirit, the universe, the good guys will find a way to something positive, and everybody else can choose that dystopian reality or vaccine if they want. But if you make a different choice, the solution will be given to you.
Yeah, I believe that we are in biblical times. I'm not the one to quote the Bible, but I kind of believe that the vaccine is on the lines of the mark of the beast. Like if you take the vaccine, you are you're taking, what if you bought the most high-end car, beautiful, brand new, first one of its kind, and you bring it over to Johnny's garage shop and you change the doors and you put a different hood on it? The guy that made the car is going to be like, what the hell did you do to my car? It's like, you can't bring it back here anymore. You're changing your design. I don't know if that was a good analogy, but
Oh, it's pretty good.
It was good for me. It worked for me.
Yeah.
So, this RNA vaccine, I just tell people, I don't tell them not to do it. I say, educate yourself, find some channels, go on BitChute. There's a bunch of good guys there, Max Egan's on there, and Dollar Vigilante. He's laying it out. Dollar Vigilante has great resources on how to break away from the system. The guy's been right for the last 10 years on everything he said, and he hasn't screwed up yet. So again, tons of resources. The Flat Earth Clock app has links to lots of that stuff in that Corona tab that's in there. That changes daily. More stuff gets added every day. So it's an endless resource.
Cool. Well, this was a ton of fun. I appreciate you, quitting your successful business job to come out here. And
it's not about money. People are like, oh, he's selling his app, he's doing it for money. No, I would make more money than the app makes me in like a week than doing this. I love talking to people. I love talking to awake people like you. They're the people in your audience, yourself, all the other people I talk to. It's an amazing journey, and we all need to connect before we, they're gonna, one day we're gonna wake up and the internet might not work. Then what do? Do you know your neighbors? Do you have any friends? What are you gonna do? Do you have any books? If you see information that you like and it's in a book, buy the book. Even if you don't read it, buy the book, put it on your bookshelf. Books, won't be deleted. My bookshelf is either going to be worth millions of dollars or it's going to get me put in jail.
Yeah. Again, 1984, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They come after the digital stuff was easy, and that's
Right.
how, it's very obvious to me and many others that we're in a war, unfortunately. If you've ever studied war or combat, it's incredibly easy to understand, but most people have never looked at it and they've just kind of gone along with the flow. And, but yeah, these are challenging times that people need to wake up, and we need to, be good examples, connect to our own spirituality in whatever way that is, and do our own research. Do not give your mind or body to anyone else.
Exactly. Keep control of your soul. That's it. Don't let it be lured away in the soul lure system. Know where your feet are planted. Know that you have all of the power, and it's only up to you if you want to give it away or use it for good.
Love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to share before we end this? This was great.
No, that's it. If you want to support me, get the app. The app has, once you pay $2.99, there's one pop-up a day. You can exit out immediately. It says, would you like to subscribe for 99 cents a month or $11 for the year? If you don't want to, it's okay. Exit out. You can do it in less than a second, and it only shows up once every 24 hours. There's no ads to watch. There's no nothing, and you still get everything. Okay? So I think it's a pretty fair deal, but there's people that wake up every day and go grab their app. The first thing, like, all right, what's the video today? Okay, what am I going to learn today? And those people, I'm like, I think you can support me for 99 cents.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it, especially with what's going on here, I kind of had to put a SOS to my community. Like, I'm getting deleted everywhere. Like, this is hard. This is not an easy task to share the truth. You do get attacked.
Right.
They try to cripple you with the money. They do whatever they can. And it's incredibly challenging. And I've faced it. And so I think that we should support the people who are putting their necks on the line and doing these things. Cause I know for myself and many others, it's been a very challenging road, but I think that it's worth it. I want to, like you said, I want to remain in integrity. And if I feel like, since I've been accurate since March, just following people that made sense and we're being honest and being congruent and using my own critical thinking and doing a lot of research, to share that so people can make better decisions, and say, hey, this is the best information that I'm finding. What's the best information that you have? Does it line up? You know what I mean? And then you start stacking everything, like the discovery of truth about vaccines, about the pharmaceuticals, about all that stuff. Is it this beautiful, wonderful thing that's been helping people since the 1900s, or is it for profit and for manipulation? The evidence that it is that, and for eugenics, is a lot stronger, but you need to look at both. And then it's just like the Kennedy versus Dershowitz debate. If you watch that, when you watch
Yeah, I
Kennedy
did.
versus Dershowitz, he destroyed him. It was like Mike
Yeah.
Tyson beating up a baby.
Right.
There was no contest because Kennedy came from logic, truth, integrity, came over the manipulation that Dershowitz tried to put, you corrected him, and then it was just obvious which one had more weight.
Right. And, all of these topics that we're bringing up, we're all programmed, we're all triggered. Vaccines. Well, what about polio? Right? If you know the truth about polio, we're not going to get into it now, but polio is not a real disease. It had to do with the DDT on the trees that the kids were eating, and they were getting paralyzed and
spraying the kids with DDT.
Yeah, that too. But again, if you want to learn about polio, go to about vaccines and polio. Crow 777 Radio with 2 R's in Crow.com and look up the episodes on vaccines. There are 1 or 2 episodes, and then you will know. Okay, that website, that show is greater than any college you could ever go to. If you watched all the episodes, you will know more useful information than any college could ever teach you.
Yeah, I got to get into it. It always comes up as I always see clips here and there. I never go into the deep dive because I'm usually creating, but
the first hour is for free on YouTube, but the second hour is behind the paywall. I think it's $5 a month. Okay, here's what you can do: sign up for a month or 2, download all the episodes, okay, and then you'll have a ton of information. If you want to quit after that, go ahead and quit. But you won't want to quit because you'll want to keep getting the new stuff, because the new stuff is super pertinent.
Yeah. I agree. So 100%. I think we should support the creators too, because this is in trying times, and we got to put our support to people who are doing it. So this has been great. We'll stay in touch. I know a lot's coming down the pipe here. So holy smokes, man, buckle up.
Anything, and here, don't be afraid. Embrace it with your heart and follow your soul, and you'll have a successful trip.
Love it. Thanks. Thanks for ending on a high note. I'm like, oh, sweet Lord. But this has been great. I appreciate you. And thanks everybody for watching.
All right. Thanks. So long.
Peace.